The 28th of July, it's just after 5:15. We're in the Tom Baker Room of the City County Building. This will be the Board of City Commissioners' regular meeting. But before we start, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll call the meeting to order. If we can call roll, please.
Commissioner Risch?
Here.
Commissioner Dahl?
Here.
Commissioner Connolly?
Here.
Commissioner Hull?
Here.
Mayor Schmitz?
Here. Our first item is public comment. Public comment period is limited to the items on this agenda, in the consent agenda, or anything in the regular agenda that's not a public hearing, and the prior meeting's agenda. Anyone who wish to speak, please come forward, tell us the topic you're speaking to, sign in, and give us your name, please. A second call for public comment. A third and final call for public comment. Seeing no one rushing to the mic, I'm going to close public comment. Commissioners, what are your wishes with regard to the consent agenda?
I actually had a question for Julie, Mr. Mayor, if that's all right.
Sure.
Just quick question on item I. Was just out of curiosity, how come the entire definition of growlers was removed?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, you can answer it, but this is a call for public hearing.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
On the consent agenda, so it's not actually the public hearing, but maybe you
My
can.
apologies. I'll retract it.
Okay. So not to get us off track as well. So Commissioners, what are your wishes with regard to the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? And I'll just, during public hearing, next meeting, discuss it, or even ask the question, Julie, in between. If there's no other discussion, I'll call roll.
Commissioner Dahl?
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Commissioner Hull?
Yes.
Commissioner Risch?
Yes.
Mayor Schmitz?
Yes. Moving to the regular agenda, item A, consider request from the Bismarck Mandan Convention and Visitors Bureau, Executive Director Sherry Grossman, to present her 2025 annual report. Sherry, go ahead.
So my name is Sherry Grossman. I'm the CEO for the Bismarck Mandan Convention Visitors Bureau.
Is the mic on? Doesn't sound like it.
No, there you go. Hi, my name is Sherry Grossman, and I'm the CEO for the Bismarck Mandan Convention Visitors Bureau. Because I'm short, Commissioner? All right. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight to give you a quick update on some of the things the Convention and Visitors Bureau has been doing this past year. I wanted to start by sharing our mission. So our mission is to promote engaging visitor experiences resulting in community economic growth and quality of place. Just to give you a little bit of background on how we're funded, our main funding source is a lodging tax. We get 75% of the 2% lodging tax. We are also a charitable gaming organization, so we currently have 4 sites. And then a small amount of our income is membership and visitor sales in our visitor center. So I'm going to start out with some numbers to help show you the significant impact that visitors have on our economy. So this past year, we moved to using Placer AI to obtain this data. You probably hear Placer a lot. A lot of retail places use that. They recently added a visitors component. So that helps to make it a good product for CVBs, and we can track the visitors' expenditures. So normally all the data I give you is Bismarck and Mandan together. Placer AI separates the two, so these next 2 screens, the two will be separated. So in 2025, visitors had 1.7 million trips to Bismarck, Of those trips, 65% were overnight and 35% were day trips. Anyone that lives in Bismarck, Mandan, or 50 miles out are excluded from this data. Yes,
Mr. Mayor,
ahead.
how do you come up with the 1.7 million trips, 2.1 million? I can see the visit, but the visit nights, what if somebody comes and stays in my basement? You can't
that's not
collect.
counted.
That's not
That's
counted.
not counted.
These are hotel stays.
Yep, they have to stay in our hotel, Airbnb, if they report it.
Okay, and then how do you figure out their spending? Do you have an average and you multiply?
This is, Mayor and Commissioner, this isn't any of our data. This is all data that Placer AI collects. So they
AI
collect that
collected?
on expenditures, a credit card mostly is what they get it on. They also have access to the hotels, their information.
Okay, but the 1.7 million trips.
That's 1.7 million. There was 1.7 million trips. And the reason they say trips is one person might have been here several times. So it's
Sure.
that many trips to Bismarck.
But how do you come up with 1.7 is my question.
The tracking from Placer, the
tracking from
people that are
credit
in our
cards?
community that are not locals or residents. And they also can track so specifically that they know the people that commute here. The phones that basically sleep here every day are not tracked in here.
Yeah. So your cell phone is the device that's usually.
Cell phones
tracked.
and credit cards, yep.
Wow.
I know.
You can turn off that if you want on your
I
phone.
turn off
Yeah.
all I can.
You can.
Go ahead, Commissioner Conley.
Commissioner Risch, when Kate from the Downtowners presented the app that they track with, there was a lot more delineation. And yeah, it was like, let's go back to rotary phones. I get it.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of information we can get. This is like a high overview on it. So those trips generated 2.1 million hotel nights, and those visitors spent $300.6 million while they were here. We can see a lot of spending categories. I just gave you the top three. Retail was 101.1 million, hotels 77.8 million, and restaurants 26.4 million. So the next slide is Mandan, just to give you that information. 208.9 thousand trips, 64% overnight and 36 day trips. Those trips generated 348.6 thousand hotel nights. The direct expenditures were 14.9 million. Their top three categories were the same three, just 1 and 2 were reversed. Hotels were 7 million, retail 2.2, and restaurants 1.1. This next slide shows the impact meetings and conventions have in our community. They really have a significant role in our economic impact. So the top half of the slide is meetings and events that were held here in 2025. This isn't every meeting that was here. These are the meetings that my staff worked with, and they were multi-day meetings. We don't really count the one-day ones. So we worked with 339 meetings. Those meetings brought in 287,315 attendees, and they spent $3.1 million while they were here. The bottom half of the screen is what our sales staff worked on in 2025. So it could have been something that maybe was held in 2025, but more than likely something for a future year. They booked 355 meetings and events that will generate 96,410 hotel room nights for an estimated 273,000 attendees. That will spend $28.6 million while they're here. I think it's significant to point
Sherry,
out.
just a minute, we have a question from Commissioner Dahl.
Yes.
Thanks, Mayor. Sherry, just a question. You said the direct economic impact was, is it 3.1? On the screen it says 31.
It is 31.
Okay.
Yep, sorry.
No,
Yep.
that's kind of a big
Yes,
difference.
that's a big difference. Yes,
Thank you.
It's 31, you're correct. Of that 28.6 million that our team booked, 7.9 million of that will be regional, national, international visitors. So out-of-state money coming into our community. Screen's not flipping. There we go. So our destination master plan was completed at the end of 2025. The CVB retained JLL to conduct this initiative that will serve as a strategic roadmap to guide the future of tourism in our community. The process involved JLL conducting meetings with a steering committee, focus groups, individual stakeholder meetings, and an extensive research process. This comprehensive plan will help solidify Bismarck Mandan's position as a tourism destination and provide long-term improvements to elevate the visitor experience. The document is over 100 pages, so it's very extensive. Just going to give you a little bit of a high-level overview here. Everything is divided into 7 pillars, so everything that's in this 100-page document would fall under one of these pillars. Destination experiences, destination infrastructure, events and festivals, destination marketing, community engagement, Missouri Riverfront activation, and Bismarck Event Center strategic partnership.
Go ahead,
Mr.
Commissioner Risch.
Mayor, Sherry.
Mm-hmm.
The riverfront, it looks like it's coming along. Will it be done this year, by this fall, do you think, or what's the status?
Mayor and Commissioner, we are actually about a month. My board is having a walkthrough down there. It's not going to be done this year. I think they're going to get a lot done this year. The first phase of it will be done sometime next summer.
Okay, and one of the, if I may, one of the concerns I've heard is where are people going to park if it's a great big event? It'll be a struggle. They have to maybe park at Pioneer Park and walk over, or what are your thoughts on that? It's always an issue, parking.
Yeah, Mayor and Commissioner, that will continue to be a problem. There's no doubt about that. I think the planners have done a really nice job of it. They've done some parallel parking along the edge to kind of shield it from it, so that if there's children running in there, there's parallel parking along there, so right next to the road,
Sure.
kids won't be able to come out of there. So it of course, will be something that will have to be worked on. And, maybe some of the larger events they'll have to bus from places, but hopefully they'll come up with some plans and from some other areas. So our plan is a 10-year plan that will evolve over time. It includes recommendations on how to move our communities forward and what is really needed to get the greatest economic impact. Some things will move forward, some ideas will change, and others might not emerge. There's numerous points under each phase. I'm just going to give you a high-level overview, just mentioning a few. So the first Phase 1, the foundation, the first 1 to 3 years, developing a foundation including new event activation and a hotel study. Phase 2, build and activate, possibly a convention hotel construction and seeing larger events and visitor volume. And then Phase 3, grow and lead. By this time, we should be hosting many more citywide conventions, and tourism is viewed as a permanent economic driver. So one of the initiatives that was highlighted in the DMP was a need for a community events calendar. This wasn't something that we didn't really know about. We knew we needed one. It's been on our radar for a long time, but we moved it to the front of the list and a few months ago implemented a community-wide event calendar. The reception to it has been great. People that plan events are very excited about it. People looking for events are excited. It's interactive and continually updated. There's a lot of information in there, and it could look a little overwhelming, but it's very customizable. You can search with filters by date, type of event, organizations. I think the best part of it is there's a minimal need for people to submit events. We're scraping over 300 websites and Facebook events daily. Yodel, the company that we work with us on this, has been trained to scrape the sites every 24 hours so the information is continually updated. For example, you had an event on there and it was going to be 8 to 4, and you change it and it's now going to be 9 to 6. You change that on your website or whatever forum you have it on. This will scrape it at night and pick it up so you don't have to go in and change that. Technology can be great. We do still encourage people, if your events aren't there, submit them, and they'll go through our process, and we'll get them on there. The general public, you can sign up and get weekly emails of events, too. So if you don't want to check back all the time, but just kind of want to know what's happening every week, you can do that. Another thing we implemented this year is Convention event business is very competitive. We're always looking ways to make sure this is the best place and the easiest place to have their meetings. So we now do event microsites, a free offering for meeting and event planners. So our sales team can set up a link that includes registration, accommodation. If we've gotten hotel blocks for them, that would be in there. Or we can put the live rates for the hotels, local promotions, restaurants, shopping, and more. So the sample I have up here is the Williston Basin Conference, which we had this May. We initially thought the people that would use this would be like the smaller groups that maybe didn't have a website. The Williston Basin Conference got on board with it right away, was very excited about it. It was one place where they could direct their attendees with all the information. The nice thing, this has an interactive map. So this was held at the Bismarck Event Center. So when the map is in there, attractions and restaurants and shopping, you can see from the map where those are. So it kind of helps guide them through our community. Anyone that's a member of the CVB and offers a coupon, those are right on there for them. So it's very nice offering. It also is good for us. It kind of helps us track the visitors. We also started a new online store this year where you can shop from anywhere. We can ship it to you. Or if you're local, you can shop online and schedule a pickup too, just like Target. This gives us an opportunity to showcase some North Dakota products and help promote the small businesses that we work with to supply some of the unique items that we carry. So, we're talking about technology, AI. We didn't want to be left out of this AI world, so we added a new AI tour guide on our website. I believe we were the first CVB and maybe still the only CVB in the state that has done this. So it's designed to keep people on our website and help them with local research and plan to spend more time in Bismarck and Mandan. So hopefully this will work, but we have a sample that we're going to show you. So into this, we put the information in and said, we're planning a trip to Bismarck, Mandan for some back-to-school shopping. We're traveling July 20th through the 23rd. Can you recommend a hotel for a family of 4, including attractions, activities that we can do together or individually? We'd like some restaurants and local coffee shops. So it takes a little while it thinks it's through, so that's why we did it ahead of time and recorded in here. But you're going to kind of see how it's going to come up. It's going to come up with some hotels. The links are all on there. They can click and go to it. We'll come up with some restaurants, some shopping. Just like any AI tool, if it doesn't have what you want, you can ask it for some different options. You can say this isn't the kind of restaurant you wanted. You can change the search completely. But if you like what it has on here when it's done, there'll be a little box up in the corner. You can download it. So you kind of have it all downloaded. If it was just what you wanted, it'll be right there. Now, this is a very extensive one. You could just go in and say, I'm looking for a Mexican restaurant. You know, it can kind of be anything you want. This now will also pull from that community calendar that we talked about. So if they're asking, I'm coming this weekend, tell me some things I can do this weekend, it will incorporate that. So it's really nice. It's done some itineraries in there. And then at the bottom, we have our phone number if they actually want to call and talk to a person. We can kind of help them through that. Also, the nice thing about this is we get the questions that are asked, so it can help us build a better website. And also let our members know a little bit maybe what we're hearing and what they're looking for.
Go ahead, Commissioner Dahl.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a question. Does that look at all the businesses in Bismarck, Mandan, or just member businesses?
Mayor and Commissioner, it's designed to look at our members first, because that's a benefit of being a member. After that, it will look at others, because we don't have a large membership. We have a smaller membership, and we wouldn't want someone, gee, they want to come here and they're going to be building a home. They want to know if we have a Lowe's and all those things. We wouldn't want them to think we don't have those. So it will have that too, but it won't have the link. If you're a member, it'll have a link. The others will just be mentioned.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Conley.
Mayor, Commissioners, Sherry, thanks for the presentation. If I could get that 100-page document emailed to me so I can look through that too.
Mayor and Commissioner, I can get you a copy of it. I can't email it because it's not in that format because of the volume of it.
Okay.
But I can get you a copy of it.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I can stop by.
So we're located at 1600 Brimboat Drive, and we have a visitors information center. inside. They're in the summer, we're open Saturdays and Sundays. So as of June 30th, of the 50 states, we had visitors from all but 12 states that stopped in. You can see the 12 up there that are different color. They're the only 12 states that haven't been in there. It's kind of a big thing. If it's your 50th state, they know that, some of them, so they come into the visitor center. So we have certificates for them, and right now we're giving some other prizes for that. We have had visitors from Canada, Mexico, Germany, Italy, Scotland, and France. So a total, not counting North Dakota visitors because we don't track those, out of state and out of the country, we had 1,332 in the first half of this year that stopped in the visitor center. So, lastly, I want to give you an example of just how important tourism is to our economy and the significant impact just one large conference can have. These last three slides aren't pretty. I just got this information at the end of the day from our reports, and I just snapped them in here. So, the Williston Basin Conference, and in fairness, this is our largest conference, but it was here May 19th through the 21st with 2,800 attendees. So this diagram shows the visitor journey. On the left side of it, it shows the last place they were before they came to the event center. The right side shows the first place they went
Sherry,
after.
can you make that any larger?
I can't just because of the format that it came in. I can,
So if you wouldn't mind
I-
getting these slides to us.
I'll absolutely
Because we
do that.
can't-
I'll absolutely do
We
that.
can't see it on the screen.
Okay, sorry. I will absolutely do that. Hopefully the next one's a little bit better. So just for when they left there, 23.6 went to hotels, 12.1 went to dining, 9.1 went to shops and services, and only 8.3 went home. So that just kind of shows you the impact of it there. The next slide, and I bet you probably can't see this either, this was just a screenshot I quickly grabbed. This slide shows the impact of the event. This data was exported from the economic impact calendar that we subscribe to, and it's provided by Destinations International and Oxford Economics. So this is the standard for measuring impact for meetings and events throughout the United States that CVBs use. So this conference had a direct impact of $2.1 million. And the next slide I'll show you, and I'll get these to you after. This one's going to be really hard to see. So I'll give you some of these numbers. So,
good until this one.
oh, sorry about that. So the first column, and to let you know, this isn't data that we think will happen. This is data that we put into this, and this group provides it back to us. To get this information, we just don't put in what we think. We talked to the meeting planner on this. We have a form that they have to fill out. They tell us what they paid for rent, what they paid for food, what they paid for AV, and then we take the hotel information that we have, and then we check with the event center to see if anything was missing on that. And then I gave this group the tax rates for our community, and then so the data we have here, if you did this conference in Chicago, it would be way different. So this is just for us. So the direct impact was $2.1 million for this conference. The indirect, when the dollars start to roll around in the community, was 1.5. So the final impact for the conference was $3.75 million. Some information that you obviously can see on the screen now that I thought would be important to you is the local taxes. The local taxes, the direct impact was $70,000. Indirect was $18,445. So the total tax impact for just local, not the state, because on the top has state and federal as well, was $86,000. This conference directly supported 964 jobs while it was here. The indirect, the final was 1,200 jobs.
Okay. Commissioner Dahl?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Sherry, can you explain a little bit more what indirect tax is? What does that mean?
So direct is the money that they spend while they're here. So this is direct expenditures. It's money that was spent, either the planners spent on the conference or the people that were here spent while they're here. The indirect is as the dollars roll through the community. So if you were in this store and you spent this money, then the workers that in that store had jobs while they were here, so they can take their money and spend it, or the owners of the store had more income so they can expand or use the money through the community. So it's how the dollars roll through the community. This is new to us. We've never reported that because we didn't have the tools for doing that. We've just always done impact. So this is the industry standard, what the rest of the country uses to predict this. Thank you.
And essentially on that indirect, that's probably the one-time turn. There's probably additional multiple turns after that. Yeah, it's typically a 7 multiplier. So if we did $1 million of new business in the community, ultimately the impact is probably closer to 7. But that's over more than that 3-day
Over
period.
time.
That's over the year, basically.
And the one thing I asked them, because this was actually, I'm going to be honest, this was the first report we've run in our new program, and I asked what the other taxes were, because if you could see the screen, I thought you'd be asking what the other taxes were. And, you know, they were naming a whole list of things, and I said, well, what if we don't have those here? And they said, well, if your community doesn't have the other, it's not part of it. This would be things like utility fees, airport fees, parking fees, public service fees, licensing, things like that. All right, anything else? That is it, unless you have any questions for me.
Are there any? Go ahead, Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Sherry, how about the TR library? I would suspect people would fly into Bismarck, rent a car, or do something that should have a positive impact on our tourism.
Mayor and Commissioners, I definitely think it will. I think from what we're hearing, a lot of people will fly in. I think this should help our off-season market a little bit for the leisure travel. Summer's really big for us for leisure, and I think this is going to extend that season as they're going through here.
I was at the library. Fantastic. Highly recommend. The other question I have, the city currently owns your building and maintains it. Is that the status today?
So we negotiated a deal.
Oh, I didn't mean to upset
And
it.
so, no, it's not upsetting anything. So they basically rent the building from us for $1. They take care of all the regular maintenance. We have to take care of infrastructure. In exchange for that, we receive back to support our activities at the event center, a 3-year pledge totaling over $1 million to help us, re-engage the event center and get it up and going, which there's a plan in place for that in this year, 2026. There'll be additional dollars in 27 and then 28, and we'll negotiate potentially beyond that. But the partnership with the Convention and Visitors Bureau is extraordinarily important to us. It certainly is important for the event center as we try to have that be a driver of these tourist-type activities, be it a convention or an artist coming in to play. And we need to do some things to start drawing those people here, those artists in particular, or our convention here, so we can activate the community as a whole. So that was in exchange for, we weren't collecting very much rent on the building anyway, and that building was purchased with grant dollars. And if there was a way we could figure out how it could actually probably transfer it, we would. So
But we're going to continue to own it and maintain the structure overall.
the overall infrastructure. So like a roof.
The outside, you know, we take care of the inside.
Right.
Okay.
Commissioner Hall, and then I think Commissioner Conley.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Mayor and Commissioners, Sherry, is there a breakdown of, visitor numbers or, money coming into the community between, of conventions versus, sporting events, to filter, find out like what, I'll say raw tourism, or people coming in for shopping versus, I'll say raw tourism where it's like, folks that go to like, the Black Hills, like that would be where it's like, we're going to the Black Hills for the Black Hills. Do we have a breakdown of those kinds of numbers, just out of curiosity?
Mayor and Commissioner, so on the slide that I showed you, meetings and conventions, realistically out of that, those other dollars, we could subtract that out of there. We track meetings and sporting events together. So realistically, we could subtract that out of there.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Conley.
Mayor and Commissioners, just to clarify to Commissioner Risch, I believe we just redid the roof, and I think it's steel. So we should be set on that for the foreseeable future.
Right. Yes, that's correct. And that was done as actually part of the new lease with them and the arrangement or donation back to the city effectively out of the lodging tax.
Yep.
Any other questions for Sherry? Sherry, thank you for
Yep,
your
thank you.
time and presentation. Moving to item B, Jason, I'm going to let you lead us off. It's discussing this building and the deferred maintenance associated with it and things we might need to look to do.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Maybe a little bit of context here before we jump into the presentation from the architects. The city-county building, the city of Bismarck has owned this building since 1984. It was previously operated by Quain and Ramstead Q&R Clinic as a medical facility. In 1984, this building was significantly renovated to accommodate first floor is 100% Burley County offices, and then floors 2, 3, and 4 are city offices. And of course, this room in the lower level is a shared space owned by the city, but utilized by city, schools, county parks, and a variety of other stakeholders, partners, and government organizations for these types of meetings. Why we are here today is because Burley County has made it known to us that they will be vacating this property at the end of 2027, or by the end of 2027, if not sooner, relocating all of their offices across the street and up a block to the Provident Building, which is owned by Burley County. Because of that, we essentially will inherit 25% of our building that we've never utilized. Burley County has been part of this building since its inception in the mid-'80s. And so in order to properly explore how to reconsider this building, we engaged the help of some local architects, Cole Johnson and Nate Hacker from Endeavor North Design. That was a process that was initiated in July of last year, interview process, and ultimately approved by the commission that met in November of 25. Since that time, we've gone through a little bit of a design process and learned a lot about this building. Nate and Cole have assembled a good team of architects and engineers, design professionals, a variety of engineering disciplines, and a team of landscape architects. One of the big drivers in thinking about this building is the room that we are occupying today. For anybody that has not been in this building, it should be noted that we are in the basement of this building, and we are in the basement of a building with the oldest elevator in North Dakota. The only way to get downstairs is an elevator that was probably predates a lot of us in this room. And so that elevator has presented some challenges in the past. I was part of a meeting a number of years ago where we had a good number of citizens that are experiencing accessibility and disability issues, and getting them in and out of this room took an extremely generous amount of time. If we were to have an emergency situation, I'd hate to think how that would have been handled. So thinking about getting this room in a more accessible location that is safe and secure and solidifies us in this building for a great number of years going into the future, those were some of the driving factors that we put in front of the design team and said, help us figure out how we can better utilize this building, how we can get out of the basement and provide a public meeting space that is safe, secure, and accessible. And in part of these conversations, we've also talked with leadership from Bismarck Public Schools and Bismarck Parks and Recreation District, and received favorable responses that they would prefer to stay in this building and share a room with us in the future. It's my understanding Burley County will be creating their own commission chambers within the Provident Building, and I believe it would be located on the second floor. So with that in mind, this room would not be used by just the city of Bismarck. It would be used by schools and parks as well. So with some of those kind of parameters in place, we asked Nate and Cole and their team to explore a number of options. What you will see tonight are 5 potential scenarios, 5 options to consider. We're not asking you to make any decisions tonight, but once we do have the design concept shared, we will also give you some information on how we could potentially fund some of these options. We're not just coming to you with a high-minded concept with some pretty cool pictures. We're also going to come forward with some potential funding options that would allow the construction and renovation of this building to go forward.
So, Jason, but that, until we get to narrow down the design concepts, we don't even know for sure. We have some big, broad numbers, but
Mayor Schmitz, you're absolutely correct. Nate and Cole will tell you that there are some contingencies built into these big numbers, and they are very much estimates at this time. But until this authority or this commission provides some direction, we're really elaborating on a bunch of different concepts. And so what we would like to do tonight is have them share where we are today and provide these options, but then allow you some time to think about it, ask questions between here and likely the end of August or early September. We would like to come back to you at that time and receive some direction on the right path for us to consider moving forward. And then that would keep us on schedule with the design and potentially construction beginning in '28 after Burley County has vacated the building. So with that, I would like to introduce Cole Johnson and Nate Hacker, and I believe Cole's got a number of slides to walk through this. We appreciate your patience. There's a lot of information here, and that's part of the reason we don't want you to be compelled to make a decision tonight. However, I don't doubt that these gentlemen will have answers to the questions that come forward, and if there's questions that staff can help with, we're happy to do that as well. So with that, this is Mr. Cole Johnson, and I will get out of his way. Do you want me to move this, or do you want to go to?
I think we'll go like this here. All right. Evening, Commissioners, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Cole Johnson with Endeavor North Design, one of the architects working on this project. We have a full team behind us, some of their logos here. One moment here, I'm going to adjust something. Some of our engineering partners and design partners are listed below. As Jason mentioned, we've been working on this for around 6 months and having meetings regularly. Jason did a great job of just kind of hitting on why we're even looking at this. Step back one step. The 2026 strategic plan hits on, you can't really read any of that, I'm sure, so I'll just hit on the key things. One goal, 1.1, that directly addresses this building. Modernize and upgrade the city-county building to improve functionality, efficiency, safety, and accessibility. So that was in the 2026 strategic plan and spurred this. So some of the other goals are listed there, have to do with engaging staff retention, staff quality of work environment, and also there's the quality of space and engagement with the overall community. So why are we looking at this project? Jason mentioned Burley County vacating roughly 25% of this building. Another main aspect of this project is the aging mechanical, electrical, and plumbing infrastructure. There's some needs coming up. There's some needs that are here now, and they're only going to be getting worse as time goes on with mechanical systems in this building. Oldest elevator in North Dakota. This is a building that's highly dependent on that elevator, so if that goes down, it'll be very disruptive and harder and harder to fix for that older elevator. Accessibility challenges, both getting to the building and when you're within the building, and then this chamber location. So the location within the building is a concern. The space, this is there's lots of room for improvement in this space. So if you were to build a contemporary, a modern commission's chamber, you would have higher ceilings, better visibility. There'd be a lot of improvements. Security is a big concern as well in this space and throughout the whole building. So what we've done to date is we started with a facility assessment to really understand what is the current state of this building, what are the needs, what's working well, and what are the potential solutions. We went through a series of interviews with the departmental directors to understand their individual departments, and again, what's working well, what can be improved, and very importantly, what does their department look like over the next 5, 10 plus years? How much are they growing? What kind of roles will they be adding? And how do they work with other departments so we can understand the space needs and adjacencies as we're looking at this study. After that, we developed those 5 options that we'll look at closer today, and so some of the key things that we're looking for is how to locate this chamber, this commission's chamber, this meeting space better in this facility. What's the best way to use that first floor space that's being vacated? And what are the ways that we can improve the way public engages with this facility and make it a more secure facility as well? Yeah, you can't, it's tough for you to read. This is all in the packet though, and you can read through this, but this is a summary of all the options, A, B, C, D, and E. A is the more minimal approach. What do we have to do to this building to keep it going for the next 10 to 20 years? That really focuses on mechanical and electrical and plumbing upgrades, elevator upgrade, roof replacement, but for the most part, everything else stays as is, and we'll go over that in a little bit more detail. Options B, C, and D make iterative improvements to this facility and kind of build on each other. And then option E is actually looking at a new build on the adjacent site, kitty corner from this building. So this is the time to look at that. Whether that's a viable option or not, that's for you all to decide, but this is the right time before a significant investment's made in this building. Before we jump into the concepts, we have all the floors shown here. So this is a building that was built in at least 3 phases, if not more. But the original building is shown right here. If you can see my pointer, it's tough. But that was the phase 1. Phase 2 was off to the side, and then phase 3 was to the southeast. So there's 3 major additions to this building, plus some vertical expansions. And everything shown in red is some obstruction that we have to work around as we're planning, either columns, stairs, elevators, mechanical shafts, or bearing walls. So it just makes reuse of this building challenging, and when we plan it out, not as efficient as a new build. Getting into the options. So we have a summary slide and then a floor-by-floor slide after that. You can see up on the top in your packets as well, we have a rough schedule. This assumes phased construction. And then we have a budgetary estimate range. So that includes construction cost, contingency, and a soft cost estimate. And that also assumes multi-phase construction. The first floor shows the current main level. That is where some of the colors aren't quite showing up right, but this would all remain unassigned. So this is the space that the county is vacating. And in this concept, or in this plan, it would remain as is and unused. Focusing again mainly on mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and kind of infrastructure upgrades. As we go up, this will help orient anyone that's not familiar with this building on who is where within the facility, but engineering, planning, and inspections would all stay as is. Again, not really improving their space, but improving the infrastructure within the facility, so they all stay within their current departments. One thing I wanted to point out on this floor, I think it's a good example, but the secure boundary is shown in orange. Kind of meanders throughout the building on different floors. It's a less than ideal situation. It bisects this floor. Engineering, planning, inspections, kind of separated there. That's something that we'd want to improve with any modifications that we make. Third floor is IT, finance, and assessing. Those, again, would stay where they're at. Colors are really hard to see on the screens here. Human resources, legal, and administration is on the 4th floor, and those would remain as is. So option A really focuses on the infrastructure and keeping the facility running for the next 10 to 20 years. Basement stays the same as well, so chamber stays in the basement. Option B is where we start to see spatial improvements. I think option A, with those investments, they're going to improve the facility, but you're not really going to notice any of those. They're kind of behind-the-scenes improvements. Option B is where we start to move some things around and improve flows and functions within the facility. Budget jumps up quite a bit there, and then the schedule bump jumps up some too. As we go floor by floor, chambers moves up to the 1st floor in the southeast corridor or corner of that. To orient people, if you can see my pointer on the south side here, this is not, north is actually to the left, but the main entry is in this location. This will move the chamber up to the 1st floor. And this is the best space for it, primarily due to column spacing. So you're going to get less columns than this space, or better spacing in the columns, but you're still going to have columns within the commission's chamber. You're still going to have a very low ceiling. You're basically going to take this space and move it upstairs functionally.
So Cole, just for my own knowledge, I guess, with that design, roughly how many people would be able to be seated versus this particular chamber?
This is a larger chamber, and I think right-sizing that chamber is something that we jump into regardless. Mayor and Commissioners, this is around 150, which may be more than you need. This would probably accommodate very large meetings. This is around, I think your chair count in here is around 125. Okay. So whether it's this size, it might shrink a little bit, okay. But
okay. Thank you.
It's roughly the size. Yeah.
I mean, I've looked at these drawings a few times and
yeah,
trying to get my head around them.
So we would also move admin, human resources, and legal down to the first floor. Those are three departments that have a high level of interaction with the public or other staff that are outside of this building. So those three make a lot of sense in this location. And we also have a kind of central area here where these blue dots, these dots that are around there are the service windows for these different departments. So if you're coming into this space, we have something that we're calling the Heritage Hall, which would be somewhat of a gallery space that would show different historical documents, artifacts from Bismarck, possibly some local artist artwork, and become just kind of a core to this building. If you walk into this building today, you're greeted by a stair and an elevator and a directory. It's just not the best first impression for this building. So that would be a huge improvement. But this does keep the entry in the current space or current location. Heritage Hall summary just kind of elaborates on that. There's some interest in, there's a historic fire truck that the city owns and would like to find a spot to showcase that. And some of these options provide a potential location for that as well. Jumping up through this B, C, and levels 2, 3, and 4 on option B, everyone stays the same in the same locations. We reorient some of the front of house kind of public areas here to not bisect the floor, but also create some shared staff support spaces in the middle, so you can kind of take advantage of those shared uses like printers, bathrooms, co-locating those in a central location. Level 3, finance, assessing, and IT all stay the same there. Again, kind of creating a back of house connection for those departments and some shared staff areas there. And then 4th floor, we are showing currently a shared break room. So instead of creating break rooms on every floor, this concept shows it all in one location. Actually, option B and C and D all do this too, at different locations within the facility, but this would have a larger break room for staff to come together, get to see other staff throughout the facility. And then you can also see there's a large area that's unassigned right now. With the county vacating that first floor space, there's some additional space needs from the city, but not a one-to-one replacement. So we do end up with some space for expanded opportunities, growth, kind of unidentified potential users of that space. In this current space, we would backfill the commission's chamber with a training room for staff, possibly public as well, which is a need for the facility, and then some other storage and staff amenities, small staff wellness center in the basement. This gives you an idea of the space. So it's not a fully designed commission's chamber, but it at least gives you an understanding spatially how that would feel on that first floor. Columns are there, ceiling's low. I think it doesn't provide the opportunity to do a raised dais, a raised commission desk. It's going to be very similar ceiling height to this, but it at least gives you an understanding, an idea of what could fit in that space. Option C, there's you can see schedule stays fairly similar. Budget, there's an increase which I'll go over. B and C are very similar, except for on C, we start to incorporate this south lot. So to the south of this building, there's a parking lot, and that owner has shown some interest in a land swap between this parking lot and the parking lot to the northwest of this that the city owns. So that opens up a number of opportunities. So on this concept, we're showing the public entry actually shifting to the south side of this, the creation of a public plaza as well. So the main entry goes to the south here. Generally, the floor plan is very similar, but we also look at improving the quality of space for the commission's chamber meeting space. And that involves actually removing a row of columns and removing the floor above the commission's space on the first floor.
Go ahead, Commissioner Rich.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners Cole. So if we swap that parking lot where I'm parked at right now, for this parking lot, would there be any parking available over here with this public space thing?
There would be some minimal parking on the south side where the street parking is, Commissioner Risch, and we haven't fully designed it, but it would. The intent right now that we've discussed is to create a public plaza for downtown and not a replacement for parking. So discussions to date have been along those lines. Second floor, this shows the open to below. So the big change on this plan for the floors 2 through 4 is that planning and zoning and building inspections would go up to the 4th floor, and that shared break room would go down to 2nd. 3rd floor remains basically the same between B and C, and then C has planning and inspections on the 4th floor, and then the basement plan between B and C is very similar.
And we're losing part of floor 2 because of raising the ceiling on first floor where the chamber would be.
Exactly, yeah. There's quite a bit of structural work that goes into that. It's a very expensive decision, but we thought we'd look at it and give it an honest look just to see, could you get a commission's chamber meeting space that would be closer to aligned with what would you do with a new build. So it's doable. It's not easy and it's not inexpensive either, but it's a viable solution. A look at what that south plaza could look like, the south entry. We'd upgrade that, do some updates to that south facade as well. I think a big improvement for the site, stronger civic identity, the flows within the space work better. There's still some security issues. There's still some security concerns. That secure boundary is not as clean as we'd like it. It's not quite as intuitive finding your way through the building for the public, but there's improvements there. And a look at that raised ceiling space, the less columns, it gets much closer to what you do in a new build. Option D is.
Just a minute, Commissioner Hall.
Mayor and Commissioners, Cole, can you give me the height of the meeting rooms for what, B, C, and D, I guess?
Yeah, so.
And I'd say for the ones where it's like, I don't know if it's in your picture you showed, for lack of a better term, wooden beams coming down, if that's part of the design or just aesthetic, I don't know, I'm not an engineer, I'll admit. But what the effective ceiling would be, say, I'll frame it as if a tall person's walking through.
Yeah. Mayor and Commissioners, it would be roughly this, probably around 8 feet. Maybe we could do a little bit better, but not significantly. C, this option where we remove the structure above, it'll be around 14 to 15, which is what we would want to do in a new facility anyways. That does involve some very extensive structural work. There'd be adding some very large beams in that scenario.
Thank you.
And then D, once getting into that, it'd be around that same ceiling height, 14, 15 for acoustics and visibility or visuals. Option D actually ends up being slightly less expensive than B, and we were a little surprised by that, but seeing how much work it took to get C, to pull off C, it makes sense. And this actually adds a commission's chamber, a new entry lobby. Instead of replacing the elevator in place behind us here, or behind me, it actually builds it off to the south side, a new stair. So everything public completely shifts to that south side. Your entry's there. You have a lobby outside, which could be overflow space for meetings with high attendance. I think that would really allow us to maybe right-size that commission's chamber at possibly a smaller size, having that overflow adjacent. And then it has restrooms, conference space next to that Heritage Hall. This is where that fire truck, if this was to be showcased somewhere, would be a great option within that lobby space. And then the public plaza is just it's still a very usable, functional space, even with that commission chamber expansion. Another thing we heard in departmental interviews is a desire for a loading dock that would allow larger orders and larger shipments to come to this building, better pricing, and then also have a spot where a small truck could back up and deliver larger quantities of supplies. This actually, as you go up, this cleans up that public interface. It's everyone that's coming to that building goes up the elevator, stairs, comes to this lobby, which would be visible from that plaza. The service windows are on the south side, the small conference and consult rooms. Any place that a public person, a member of the public coming to this facility would have to use, it's all on that south side, and staff would come to them. That cleans up the secure boundary significantly as well. And then going up, same thing, IT, finance, and assessing, and then fourth floor unassigned. A look at basement, again, similar functions to B and C, just a little different layout with that added elevator and stair on the south side. A look at what that plaza and building could look like. It has a very strong presence. It's you can really, the civic identity is much improved here. I think wayfinding for public is improved as well. Everything that they're going to need is on that south side. I think the layout also on the first floor actually allows for the whole building to be locked down except for the commission's chamber and the restroom. So that could provide some interesting opportunities to allow that commission's chamber to be used by others other than just the political subs. You could lock down the whole building except for that space. How far you take that, it could be a point of discussion, but it could be a real community asset at that point. Another look, as you see, you can see all those public lobbies right here on that, next to the stair tower. And then the commission's chamber here too. So we're showing this slightly elevated to, I think this is where we would land in a scenario where we can elevate the desk, the dais, so that when people are presenting, you're kind of eye level, and then the community can see, has better visibility in the space as well. Option E, so this is the new build. Looking at the site that's adjacent to this facility. So this is 5th and Thayer, so it's the opposite corner of this building, or from this building. Provident Building is to the north. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail. I think functionally it has a lot of the same uses on the same floors, other than we have underground parking in this scenario. Around 38 spaces is all you're going to fit on one floor there. So it's not a direct one-to-one replacement of that current parking lot, but there are some parking spaces available there. We talked about going down another level, but that would just, the cost would skyrocket at that point. It would be very expensive for not many spaces. And then going up to second floor, IT and human resources, finance and assessing on the third, fourth floor, planning and inspections, and engineering on the fifth floor. Quick look at what that could look like on that site. Again, I think this is the time to look at things like this, is before this building needs some significant investment. Does this option make sense? All for you to discuss and decide, but we thought it was worthwhile throwing it out there and having that, at least that data point of what a new build would look like. And I think The size of this new build is smaller than this existing building. Going into a new building, we get to lay it out more efficiently, basically aligning with true needs of the staff. This existing building with all the columns, the existing window bays, it's really driving a lot of how we can lay this building out. Schedule, as I mentioned before, we're estimating and planning a phased approach. Whether or not that's a full 2, 3, 4 phases, or if we can do it in 1 or 2 is something that we've discussed. But for our pricing, we've assumed that it's a multi-phase project, and that does come with a premium as well. So I'll spend a little bit of time on this, the estimates. So we have option A through E, they're a high and a low range. And just candidly, if we were to look at these when we started this, seeing these numbers, they're much higher than we thought they'd be when we started this effort. But as we dug into the state of the mechanical systems here and the effort that it would take to replace all those, the electrical components, and really understood the needs of this building, the numbers are justified, and they're our best estimates at this time. So the blue columns are all, or rows are all the direct construction costs, and we have the building number and a plaza and site number broken out there, and then the high and low ranges. After the blue, we have a contingency and escalation line. So that is a high number right now. It's 20%, and that's made up of a design and construction contingency of 15%, and then an escalation factor of 5%. I would say that if you're going in on any project, I think it's the correct thing to do is go in with a healthy contingency like that. But the city is balancing many projects too. So the likelihood of every one of your projects needing all that contingency is unlikely. But still, when we're looking at this one project, this is where we reviewed with some construction partners locally too, what would you recommend, and they are in alignment with that as well. That gets you the total construction cost estimate, ranging anywhere from 9 to 10 on the low end to into the 40s on option E, 40 million. The next column in there is yellow, so that's the yellow soft cost estimate. So soft costs are costs such as furniture, equipment, computers, equipment, hazardous material remediation, design fees, and that right now is just a percentage. We haven't nailed down all those prices or all those costs, but assigned a percentage to each option. So going with a lower percentage on option A, up to a higher percentage on option E, thinking there may be more furniture, more equipment that you'd buy for a new building. So that gets us to that full range of 11 to 12.8 on the low end with A. B, C, and D all get into the 25 to 40 range, and then new build is 46 to 50. But just candidly, there's a chance we're conservative in this. There's a chance that we're over contingencyed, but this is where at this point in the project we'd recommend. But it can be absolutely a discussion point. When we look at kind of a gut check for us was to look at the cost per square foot for these options, and A, which is kind of the essentials, it's around $150 a square foot, which is high for basically infrastructure work, but this is a very complicated system and it's complicated replacement. When you look at B, I think that was around $350 a square foot, high for a renovation, but not unreasonable for this intensive a renovation. C was more, I think that was into the possibly $425, $450, but what was driving that was the structural cost to do that taller chamber. And then D actually was on about $375, which was lower than C. There's actually more square footage there too, but so those costs per square foot for construction don't seem off to us too. So we've got a few things to kind of gauge that by. And then, as I mentioned, we engaged a couple local building construction partners to get their thoughts on it too, and they were in alignment with us. Last thing I will hit on and then leave it open for any questions you might have. We created a guiding principles matrix. So options are the rows here, A, B, C through E, and then we created these guiding principles and then scored them. 5 being excellent alignment, 1 being not well aligned. And then we weighted those two, so putting a lot of weight on construction cost and value. You can see the weighted scores here ranging from 2.5 up to 4. And then we also had the steering committee scored these options based off the city's core values of service, stewardship, respect, care, and innovation. And again, we weighted those. They assigned those points, and then we averaged those out. So you can see how those scored. We have that in this column here. And then we also have the estimate ranges. So those are total project estimates with construction or with contingency in those and soft costs. And then the scores. I feel like I've taken enough time, but there's plenty more I could discuss. What questions do you all have?
I know Commissioner Hall has.
Thanks, Mayor and Commissioners. I forget if it's in here, talked earlier with Nate of, there'd be cost savings, I can't remember if it's 5 or 10% if you did it one phase. I wasn't sure if because I guess if I recall correctly, you're still refining the numbers. Would you be able to refine so we could see each of those options of, because there's a savings of being able to just be like, we're out, you've got the billing to, do all at once.
Yep.
Versus the cost, but also include the cost of having to vacate, everyone's out, a move day. Versus, but also, I guess if you do it in phases of, there's also the cost of each floor having to move. I guess if we, I know it's, compared to the overall number, it's not much, but I figure it might hit, I don't know, if that moves it by, the 6-figure range, it'd be nice to know. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. We could refine that, show the 5 to 10% reduction, and then those moving costs are actually in that soft cost number too. So we could bring those kind of to light and just show those to what we have assumed for moving costs and how those might change for 1 phase, 2 phases versus 4. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Other questions? Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I was wondering if there are other I know just upgrading lighting and HVAC is an energy savings right there, but I figured this is a great opportunity to upgrade the building. Are there other energy efficiencies that we could that you've included or that we could include that could pay themselves off in say 10, 15, 20 years because we're going to be here for 10, 15, 20 plus years?
Yeah, I think the next thing after systems would probably be the exterior insulation. We're assuming that there's not much, if any, exterior insulation in this building, so looking at that too, that would be something that it's incorporated in the numbers, but we could break that out, our assumptions too on that. Windows is one that we don't have that in our number right now, but it's something that we could look at. They're functioning, they're in good shape. They don't necessarily need to be. I'm not sure what the payoff would be, but those are 2 that come to mind.
Yeah, because I just figure if we're going to vacate the building, let's do it. Let's get everything we can done now for, I don't know, 50 years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners Cole. So the last major renovation was actually 1984,
I think it.
or has it been renovated since then?
Mayor and Commissioners, Commissioner Risch, the building was renovated in 3 separate phases, 2006, 2007, 2008. Floor 2, Floor 3, and 4 floor were done independently. At that time, staff was relocated to the then-owned City Public Health Building on the corner of 5th and Front, but it was basically 1 floor per year, and then that spanned 3 separate budget cycles to help manage the costs of the renovations over a period of time rather than a lump sum. So 20 years since
Which brings up
2006.
the question, it'll be quite disruptive.
Yes, it will be.
One of the other questions I have is, whenever we do something like this, are we gonna buy all new furniture, all new furnishings, the entire operation? I mean, that's what seems to be the trend. I moved last year from South Bismarck to North Bismarck. We kept most of our furniture. We moved it. But is it gonna be all new furniture? Everything? All chairs, desks, everything?
I believe in E, we have new budgeted. Our soft costs includes that for the new build. And then the rest of them, I think it's a hybrid of assuming that we'd reuse some. If you like your chair right now, we can bring it back upstairs. But it's a hybrid, I think, in the remodel options. A, we don't have really anything. It's assuming that it's just reuse of everything that's there.
So, go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
Mayor and Commissioners, I guess, you know, try to figure out how to phrase it best, but, you know, I know it's good to, good to let the audience, be able to see the commission, but I also know it's like, I don't know, we're just, regular old people, we shouldn't be up on a high dais. It's like, how, you mentioned one of them, would be elevated to, improve visibility. Would the person that come up to the lectern, would they also be elevated, so we're at like, similar level, or? I don't know, I'm just,
Yeah.
I didn't like the metaphorical optics, so
Yeah,
I wasn't sure,
absolutely.
help me figure that out.
Yeah, we would study that definitely in all options, but this isn't ideal. This is kind of a little awkward with it at the same level. It's also not a great visibility for the people in the audience. So looking at 1 to 2 steps up is probably the right level. So then we become more eye to eye as we're discussing. Better visibility from the audience. When you start going to 2, 3, or 3 or 4 steps, it becomes a little bit more intimidating, more like a judicial bench type of thing, which is not the feeling that we're going for either. So I think some level of elevation around 12 inches, couple steps is probably the right amount to hit that balance between better visibility and not being intimidating.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm gonna, Jason, are you asking for any kind of direction tonight? Because I'm swallowing hard on some numbers.
Yep, totally understand, Mayor and Commissioners. I guess any direction you're willing to consider, we would certainly take, but we weren't expecting anything beyond, continue to proceed. There's more work that Nate and Cole can continue to do before we get to the kind of next decision point. We just wanted to give you information to consider for now with the intention of coming back, like I said earlier, either the last part of August or the first part of September. And then at that point, we would be looking for some direction, whether it be option A, B, C, or a hybrid of one option or another. But we wanted you to all have this consideration at this point, and any feedback you can offer the design team or the steering committee. Myself, Assistant City Administrator Doug Wiles, and our City Engineer Gabe Schell have been a big part of this, along with our Public Works Service Operations Director Steve Solway, who oversees the building maintenance. So there's been some staff involvement in this, and along with a good number of members of the design team as well.
Okay, Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Jason, I mean, the $1 million question is, do we have the money to pay for it? I mean, I think it's wonderful. I like option D. It looks like it scored the most. But we got a lot of stuff in the pipeline. We're building a new police station, $100 million. Expanding the airport, it'll be about $20 million from the city's share.
South
Fire
Bismarck
station,
flood control.
$100 million on the south side. Tyler Parkway, where we're going to have a new fish pond, that's $10 million. Before you know it, we're talking real money here. So I'm just wondering, where do we have a plan? I mean, like last year's budget and this year's budget, we're limited to 3% increase plus new construction, and we're spending it all last year and this year. The good news, I think we didn't spend all of our budget from last year, so we built up a little bit more reserve. But so my big question going forward, I'm all in if we can find a way that we can pay for.
Feasible? Sure. Mayor and Commissioners, thank you for that question. Do we have the cash on hand today? No, not 100%. But we're also not looking at starting construction next year. We're looking at 2028. So through a series of exercises that we've done with our new finance director and our comptroller, we've come up with potential funding scenarios that could work without borrowing a whole lot of cash and without depleting our entire resources. We have building construction funds that could be eligible. We have committed fund balance, and we could also be looking at potentially revising our fund balance policy to limit the amount of cash we have in reserves and then redirecting some of that towards this construction project. But you're absolutely right. We have been talking a lot about new construction and big projects. Unfortunately, the estimates that have come forward with these 5 options far surpassed what I thought it would take to renovate this building. When we heard that it could be between 10 and 12, $14 million just to fix the roof, the elevator, and the HVA system in this building, that's pretty staggering. But when you then look at the next options going forward, you quickly realize that a lot of that cost that goes along with option A eats up the budgets for options B, C, D as well. So we have to fix the HVAC system. Just for example, this weekend, I happened to be in the building Sunday evening, and it was a toasty 90.2 degrees on the 4th floor. Our cooling tower went out Friday. Our building maintenance staff worked throughout the weekend on and off to get that thing back online, so when we came in Monday morning, it was a comfortable work environment. We have 3 different HVAC systems in this building, and it is a struggle to maintain. I think Mr. Salwai would tell you that his building maintenance staff spends a fair bit of their time just attending to this building, not to mention all the other facilities that we have throughout our entire holdings. And we see them frequently, we see them regularly, and we're calling because things aren't working, things are leaking. There's problems with this old building, and if we continue to ignore them, unfortunately, those costs and those problems just get bigger. So it's probably time to make some decisions. Again, what's really causing a lot of this conversation is the fact that our first floor tenant will be vacating the property, and thereby we have a responsibility to reuse that space in one way or another. It would be great if we could just simply move in and set up shop, but that doesn't address some of the other issues that we've talked about already, and particularly this room as being one of my primary concerns with remaining in this facility. We need to provide a safe and accessible place for all the public to attend our meetings from now and into the future. So,
Well, I'm not afraid to give a little direction.
certainly.
So I feel there are 2 options that are probably not viable. A, because
Okay.
that's really, it's solving issues, but it's not addressing more concerns. And E,
New construction.
new construction.
Understood.
And I would love to see us find a way to keep the number under 30.
Okay. Duly
Because I
noted.
think that's more attainable.
Yep. And Mayor and Commissioners, if I can offer, as part of the steering committee, I don't know that any of us would be in favor of new construction either, but I think it was worth having that exercise to put the number in front of you to just compare what does new construction look like versus the various renovation options that are out there. So we certainly didn't expect anybody to be high-fiving us on a $50 million new city hall, but we wanted it to be a part of the presentation so you had it for context.
But that's my broad, I mean, I probably narrowed it down, so you have my finance number.
Sure.
Go ahead,
Mr.
Commissioner.
Mayor, you make an excellent point. Oftentimes, every time, all these building and construction projects, we bring in these consultants, the engineers, the architects, and they give us a number. Instead of us giving them a number and say, what can you do for $30 million? Maybe that's the approach we should take,
And I think.
or whatever number that might be.
Yeah, and I just picked 30 because I think it's unattainable. I would love to be 25, but.
I'd like to do 10.
Well, I don't think we're going to do 10 because we got to take care of the elevator and the mechanical pieces, which, you know, we've been making it by, but if we're going to do something, we should fix it. If there's nothing else, I think I look forward to what you bring forward. And then also, our finance team will bring forward the potential plan of how we pay for it.
Understood. Do you have a preference if we shoot for the second meeting in August or the first meeting in September?
I would say, because the first meeting in September is our budget hearing, it'd be better if we went the second meeting in August, if
Okay.
you can pull it off, because I
Work for you
think it's
guys.
better to not.
Okay.
But, I mean, I don't know what the budget hearing will look like, or how long it will be, but I want to make sure we give due time to that because that's very important.
Understood. And a quick check with Mr. Johnson here, the second meeting in August wouldn't be a problem for them. So we'll plan on that. We'll come back with a potential funding package and whatever new information the design team can share between this meeting and a meeting a month from now.
Thank you. And Cole and Nate, thank you for the work and getting some concepts for us to think about.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I was just gonna
Oh,
say,
I'm sorry, I
Mayor
missed
and
your hand.
Commissioners, would it work, would it help if we eliminate 2 options?
If that's the general consensus of the board, Mayor and Commissioners, Commissioner Hull, we can certainly focus on options B, C, and D and just eliminate new construction altogether and recognize that it's not the best use of our resources to just shutter a portion of the first floor. So we'd be happy to focus on the 3 in the middle and go from there if that's,
I might add that we might eliminate option C as well. I mean, it's more expensive than D, and I don't like it as well. Neither all the people weighing in on it.
Probably not. I mean, I just think the cost of the infrastructure
Yeah.
is,
If we
it's kind of wasted money, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd move we make, give them either move it down to 2 or 3 options, but if we do, I would say, I just want, let the commission know I do have stock in one of the companies listed, and then, another company as a client of mine, so I'll step out if you all feel it's a conflict of interest. I don't have any involvement with the project, but I just wanted to put that forward, for, transparency.
I don't know if we need a motion today, and right now, I don't
Okay.
think it's a conflict, I don't personally. But I think if we've given direction, I think
Yep.
we certainly, I'm gonna guess option C is gonna fall off because of the dollars. So it's probably down to
B and D.
some form of B and
B
D.
and D. Okay.
I
We
don't
can-
know, I'm not seeing head shaking no necessarily. We're all trying to get our head around the dollars.
It's a big number. We understand. That's not what we were here to, not what we were hoping for, but it's unfortunately what we're dealing with in today's environment. And if we wait any longer, the number just gets higher. So we can certainly focus in on options B and D and come back in a month, and we'll take direction at that time.
Okay,
Okay? Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Cole.
All right, moving on to item C, public hearing on ordinance 6673 to create a special assessment district for annex properties. And I think I don't have a presentation for, do I? Oh, our new finance director is going to make an appearance.
Mr. Chair, you're correct. There is no presentation. It's just a public hearing for the park improvement charges to be assessed to annexed property, newly annexed property, so.
Okay, I will then open up the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak, please come forward, identify yourself. A second call for public comment. A third and final call for public comment. Seeing no one and hearing no one, public comment period is closed. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Commissioner Hull?
Yes.
Commissioner Rish?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahl?
Yes.
Mayor Schmitz?
Yes. Moving to item D, public hearing on ordinance 6676, a zoning map amendment from A agricultural and CG commercial zoning district to CG commercial zoning district and a major subdivision final plat titled Berg Acres Addition and a development agreement. Go ahead, Jenny.
Thank you. I'm making sure the computer is all right, working perfectly. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Stephanie Sheets and Dennis Berg are requesting approval of a zoning map amendment from the A Agricultural Zoning District and CG Commercial Zoning District to the CG Commercial Zoning District, major subdivision final plat. Sorry about
We're
that.
going to tell Daniel he left you with
I
all the
know.
tools.
Well, this is awesome. I just can't get it to work. So here we go. So we're doing a zoning map amendment, a major subdivision final plat titled Berg Acres Addition and Associated Development Agreement. These requests are located in East Bismarck, between 52nd Street Southeast and 66th Street Southeast along the south side of East Main Avenue. And the plat consists of 6.99 acres with 2 lots in one block. The proposed plat and zoning map amendment are being requested to facilitate an event facility on Lot 2. We'll get there here. There is an existing single-family dwelling on Lot 1, which will remain but may be converted to a bridal suite in the future. The property is located, as I mentioned, within city limits. Municipal water will be extended to the property from East Main Avenue. However, sanitary sewer is not yet available in this location. City staff have determined that a private on-site septic system is acceptable for the event center and existing dwelling until municipal sewer is available. During the initial review of the proposed plat, staff determined that a roadway along the western edge of the property extending to the south would be required to provide a corridor for the extension of municipal services and the roadway network to the properties to the south for future urban growth. The proposed plat includes a 45-foot wide right-of-way, roughly half of the required 80 feet of right-of-way generally for the type of roadway that is anticipated in this location. It is accepted that the adjacent property owner to the west would dedicate the remainder of the right-of-way when they choose to develop their property. The city and applicant have finalized a development agreement that addresses timing of future improvements of this roadway. 62nd Street Southeast will be its name, along the western property of the plat, and interim use of the existing of a private septic system until public sanitary sewer is available. Approval of the development agreement is also included within this request. It is my understanding that the applicant has signed the agreement, and if approved tonight, Mayor Schmitz and City Administrator Tomatic will be also available or able to sign it as well. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on this request on June 24th and voted to recommend approval of the ordinance. 6676, the zoning map amendment, the major subdivision final plat for Berg Acres Edition, and associated development agreement. Do you have questions?
Any questions of Jenny?
Thank you.
Hearing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak on this, please come forward if the applicant or any representative wishes to speak. A second call for public comment? A third and final call for public comment? Public comment period is closed. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Commissioner Hull,
Me? Oh, sorry. Yes.
Commissioner Risch,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahl,
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly,
Yes.
Mayor Schmitz.
Yes. Moving to item E, public hearing on ordinance 6677, a zoning map amendment from A agricultural and RT residential zoning districts to RT residential zoning districts and a major subdivision final plat titled DCN Edition. Jenny.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. As you noted, DCN is requesting approval of a zoning map amendment from the A agricultural and RT residential zoning districts to the RT residential zoning district and major subdivision final plat for DCN Edition. This request is located in North Bismarck, North Central Bismarck, really, north of East Calgary Avenue between North Washington Street and State Street. That's left over from an old one. It is between Normandy and Coleman on the south side of 43rd Street. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on this request on June 24th. Staff received one phone call asking about a roundabout in this location and one in-person inquiry asking just more about the project, neither for or against. At the conclusion of the public hearing and based on the findings contained within the staff report, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to recommend approval of this request. Do you have questions?
Any questions? Doesn't look like it.
Thank you.
I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak, please come forward, identify yourself. A second call for public comment. A third and final call for public comment. Public comment period is closed. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
Move we approve as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Commissioner Risch,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahl,
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly,
Yes.
Commissioner Hull,
Yes.
Mayor Schmitz.
Yes. Moving to item F, consider request from the Administration Department to provide an update on the strategic plan tracking. Go ahead, Doug.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight I'm here to present the second quarter update for Commissioner Dahl and Commissioner Hull. Our strategic plan was adopted or approved in November of 2025, and as part of that discussion, when that was approved, it was a request from this commission to do quarterly updates. For the second quarter update, I had attached in your packet 3 different reports. The first one is the detailed task report that lists a whole bunch of information. That's every single task that we are currently working on. So there's 177 tasks. For the strategic plan, currently we are at 24% completion or progress. Sorry, not completion, but progress. And if you look on that second page of that detailed task report, you can see some different statuses: in process, some disruption, major disruption. So a lot of our tasks that our organization is going to take on are upcoming. And so we haven't even started those yet. One has been discontinued, and we've completed a fair bit as of right now as well. I don't plan on going through this entire thing. I want to keep this very brief because we have a very important item right after this. But moving to one report that I felt was interesting and that you may have some questions about is this disrupted task report. You see some bright colors on here. We have 9 tasks that are in this disrupted status. And disruption isn't a negative term with how we're reporting, and I hope our directors are getting more and more comfortable with this language. Red often means danger or that there's problems, but that's not necessarily the case here. It's just identifying that there has been kind of a change in course or some circumstances that have come up that have kind of altered the path that we had originally thought we were going to take to accomplish some of these goals and tasks. And I just want to point out a couple as an example. If you look at task 1.1.2.1, the goal was to strategically identify land that will provide efficient community fire protection and procure the site. So we're well along in that process, but we're kind of wavering back and forth between two locations, and there were some variables that came up on one of the sites that have just taken a little bit more time. So we identify that there's some disruption in accomplishing that task. Another example would be if you look at Task 5.1.2.1, this task was to train staff in the usage of software dedicated to help remedy ADA non-compliant content on our website. Most of you are probably very familiar that there was a new federal regulation that came down to municipalities for how we manage our websites to make sure that they are ADA compliant. And with that, it's been very challenging because as you can imagine, we have hundreds of thousands of documents on our website that our residents reference, and all of those need to be ADA compliant. So there was some add-ons to our website that we needed to purchase in order to become compliant with this new requirement. So, and then we got right to the edge of the finish line in April when the deadline was, and the federal government came out and extended a year for everybody. So we're way ahead. We're about 95% compliant on all of our data on our website. So we're sitting in a good spot, but the federal regulation has caused some disruption in that process. Another update that our public health director provided just this week that wasn't included in this because the reporting time period was a couple weeks ago is she got an update for the Rural Health Transformation Grant. And she stated that we were previously anticipating getting some sort of approval between June 1st and June 30th, and that timeline has been extended. And we haven't heard when that will take place, but she wanted you to know that they are continuing to work with stakeholders. And if the grant is awarded, the next step would be to issue a request for proposal for technical assistance to develop financial sustainability plan for the triage center. And if it is not awarded, Public Health would reconvene with the steering committee to discuss alternative sources of support for developing the financial sustainability plan and determine the most appropriate path forward. So that's a pretty big project for us. I know a couple commissioners are very interested in that. All of you are, but Commissioner Hall, is that your new portfolio? That's of extra interest for you. And then finally, we have the department progress report, and this is just to highlight some of the tasks that we have completed already this year in the first couple quarters of the strategic plan. The biggest one that we have accomplished is the half-cent sales tax extension. That took a ton of work by a lot of staff, but primarily from the engineering department and our city engineer, Gabe Schell. And there's a very detailed checklist of what they had to accomplish in gearing up for this election season and getting information out to the voters. And we had great success at the ballot. I believe that was approved at about 65% approval. So I don't need to go through all of these with you, but if you have any questions or would like these reports presented in a different way or would like maybe different details in these reports, I'd be happy to alter that. I have a lot of flexibility in the reporting. Do you have any questions?
Commissioner Dahl.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Doug, I just want to say that I think this is a really interesting piece of information for community members to see. I think a lot of times different pieces of city government aren't recognized for all the work that they're doing that is admittedly behind the scenes to keep the city working. And I think this is a really interesting report to just see all the things that are going on to maintain our city and improve our city. So good work to you and all of the department heads and employees of the city.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other comments? Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Doug, good job on this, and thanks for following up. Oftentimes you do these things that get set on a shelf, and nobody bothers to look at it after we approve these strategic plans. But I'm going to bring up one of the disrupted task report, and it's 5.1.1.1. Major disruption, and it's enhanced communications. The highest priority is that we form a newsletter is a priority project in the future. And I don't know if you know it or not, but Mandan actually has a newsletter. They put it in their utility bill, and oftentimes it's a single sheet of paper, tells you when all the meetings are, it's got the phone numbers for everybody, and just a little blurb on both sides of the page telling the citizens what's going on in the city. And I was talking to the city administrator over there one time. He said one month they didn't have the newsletter, and it failed. Something happened, and he got nothing but calls because people really relied on this newsletter. And I'm not suggesting a separate mailing. I'm suggesting one page, both sides, in an existing mailing that we do anyway, so it won't cost us anything in postage. So I'd be happy to help work with you on that. I think we should do a newsletter, something that people can hold in their hand when they pull out that utility bill and get a grasp of what's going on in our community. So that could be done. The mayor could issue a decree, and we could do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Risch. It is in the strategic plan for that very reason, and I know that this is something that you're passionate about, and we're working towards it. So thanks for bringing it up.
There are some staffing-related resources at the moment.
Yes, we plan on advertising for one of our vacant positions in October.
So I offered to write it.
I didn't take him up on that, but I know he's a very good writer. But we do plan on filling that position. That should free up some resources so that we can begin tackling that.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
Sorry, Mayor and Commissioners, thank you. Sorry, Doug, echoing the other commissioners, great job on this, great, letting the public know it's like, hey, we're working on stuff, not just proposing. Is there anything you need from the commission to help on any of these?
No, our department directors do a great job of keeping things updated, and I believe doing a good job communicating with you, as you will learn. And if there's ever changes to any of these projects, we have the ability, as this is a living document, to change it on the fly and then redirect as we need to. So any feedback on these reports would be fantastic, and then communicating with your departments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to item G, consider a request to receive and approve the city's 2027 preliminary budget requests and the budget committee recommendations. And Ryan is going to start us off, and Eric is going to lead us through, and then I'll have a few comments. Go ahead.
Mayor Schmidt, members of the commission, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our preliminary 2027 budget. As you all know, I came into this process way late in the game. For efficiency and simplicity's sake, you're right. I'm going to go through just kind of a brief overview of the process that we go through, some of the timeline, the objectives that we run through as far as putting this budget together. But then after that, I plan to turn it over to our comptroller, Eric Lund, as I know you'll have plenty of questions. And rather than me turning around and looking at him dumbfounded, waiting for an answer, I'll let him have that answer right at the top of his head, because I know he has that information and has been digging through it. So to move forward, to start with, the first slide we have went the wrong way. There we go. Just kind of summary of our requirements that we have as part of our budgeting process. The first, obviously, we're going to comply with state law statutes, North Dakota Century Code, and we're also going to comply with our local ordinances. Beyond that, we adhere to GAP and GASB standards. Those are accounting standards that we must adhere to. And then we must establish a formal appropriation authority to expend funds out of our general fund, our special revenue funds, our debt service funds. And then we have a local ordinance that requires us to put a 5-year capital improvement project plan out there as well. Additionally, for our other funds, our capital projects funds, our enterprise funds, internal service funds, we put together a financial plan, not necessarily a appropriation authority, but a financial plan for those that essentially fund themselves. They bring in their own dollars and are able to expend those funds as well. Beyond that, this is just a summary of what that last slide was. The process we have, the budget process we have, each of those departments, we have our department directors and their assistants help put together a financial request for each of their agencies. And so that information is required. We request that to be submitted to us. This year, the deadline was May 26th. The budget committee then meets individually with each department. We also bring in the commissioner who has that portfolio, who is a member of that portfolio, and we go over each of those requests in kind with them, with the portfolio commissioners, with the departments, to make sure that we have all the information we need to put that together. Once those meetings are held, budget committee gets together and makes those final determinations, the final recommendations, to bring together what was given to you as part of this presentation. The final initiatives, the one-time spending asks, the recurring spending asks, the base budget request, that's all given to you, and it all comes from the budget committee that is put together. That brings us to today. The June 28th is our city commission reviewing and hopefully approving the 2027 preliminary budget. Key to note that it is a preliminary budget. We'll obviously move forward with any requested changes. We'll have a public hearing beyond that, and then we'd ask for final approval in our September commission meetings. And that would be the September 8th, hopefully. Next, Budget Committee, just as a refresher for those of you that have been here and those of you that are new, including myself. The membership of our Budget Committee is the commissioner with the finance portfolio. Previously, or at the beginning of this process, it was Commissioner Cleary. Mayor Schmitz has taken over that portfolio, and so he was involved in most of these conversations and discussions that were held. Beyond him, the city administrator, Jason, the assistant city administrator, Doug, and then the finance director, who at the beginning and throughout most of the process was the acting director, Eric Lund, and then we'll forward on to me as we move forward in this process. Main objectives. The main objective is to develop a balanced budget that incorporates the prudent and strategic use of our reserves when appropriate. Beyond that, we want to adjust departmental budgets to account for any inflation or other cost pressures. We enhance the effectiveness and efficiency of public safety operations. And then we also want to evaluate and address any staffing needs that come up and that our directors, division directors are bringing to us. There's also a goal to preserve improve the street and infrastructure conditions. We'll continue to do that on an annual basis, and as well as the equipment replacement program that we have in place. We want to make sure that we're continuing that to be efficient and effective with our resources. Once that budget committee puts together their recommendations, we take into account everybody's asks, their justifications for their asks, and we base our recommendations on those asks versus the city's financial situation. So as we saw earlier today, there's a lot of asks for our dollar. There's a lot of needs out there for our dollar, and we want to make sure that we're spending that appropriately and where those needs are being addressed appropriately. So I will take a step back as we move into the specific numbers. I'll hand it over to Eric Lund, but just know that we're always here to answer the questions. New commissioners, existing commissioners, please feel free to reach out to my office, our office. Eric and I can get you whatever you need as we move forward. But again, I want to express some thanks to Eric, because I know he put a heck of a lot of work into this, and he's going to have a lot of answers for you guys as we move forward this evening. So,
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
thank you.
All right. So first thing we're going to talk about is the general fund and what the preliminary budget impacts for that look like. Looking at just a real quick snapshot, we included the 25 actuals the current operating budget for 2026, and then our projected budget for 2027. If you look at the 26 budget, it shows a deficit spending, and that, again, is a reinforcement of using our existing reserves in an effective and prudent manner. But looking at 2025, you can see we had about a $7.6 million growth in fund balance. That just simply goes to show we conservatively budget. We have a number of vacancies that are helping to contribute to that unspent budget that we have. But also contributing to that is some of our general fund resources that we count on are exceeding expectations, whether it's our licenses, our permits. The ongoing economic activity in this community helps to support those general fund budgets.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, Eric, so I thought when we did the 26 budget, we pretty well balanced the budget, but now you show we're $7.6 million we'll have to reach into our reserves?
Yep, and that's assuming that we have 100% spend on all of our FTEs, all of our capital projects that we had planned. We know that's not going to happen.
That negative change in fund balance, that was because we had some reserves set aside for some projects that are being spent, and they have to run through the general fund expenditures, even though we're not using current dollars for them. They were planned transactions.
So, for example, like the fire station, $5 million we set
Yep,
aside?
the money for Fire Station 6 and the coinciding fire engine that needs to be for Fire Station 6, those are expansions of our existing resources, and those are cumulative in that $7.6 million projected deficit. We have the reserves set aside in previous periods to account for that spending.
And actually had the dollars committed towards them.
Correct.
So coming out of those reserves intentionally.
In previous years, we had planned for this ongoing expense, or this future expense. And so now 26, well, preliminarily, when we did the 26 budget about this time last year, we thought we would be further along within that project and be starting to spend some of those dollars. We know today that we're not there just yet. And so those dollars, the budget authority would be carried forward likely into the 27 budget. It's just not a part of this budget process until we approach the end of the year and know where exactly we're at in that process.
Commissioner Hull.
Mayor and Commissioners, I apologize if I'm getting in the weeds because I know it'll be a long process. But I see where it's like 2025 to 2026, the revenues dipped a little, which, it's fine, but we projected a $6.5 million increase. I don't know if, can you give me an idea on the why, just so we know?
So, well, what I will say with revenues, we are very conservative in our budgeting. We do not want to put a revenue projection out there that we don't believe is attainable. And so what I would say, seeing this information on a daily basis, our projected revenue of $72.2 million for 2026, we will likely exceed that. We just want to make sure that when preparing a balanced budget, we don't put a revenue number so high out there so we can spend and then all of a sudden our revenues don't meet that number, but we've already spent that number and we inadvertently live beyond our means.
Thanks. That's why I was wondering. I'm like, if we got $78 million to play with, okay, but just, yeah.
Yep, and keep in mind, when we're looking at fund balance, there are various levels of fund balance that are out there. We have non-spendable things like prepaids, inventory, those types of things. We can't use that obligation to pay bills. We have committed resources fund balance to where the city commission has allocated some of that fund balance intentionally for future projects. And without action from the commission, we cannot remove that commitment. We then have an assigned fund balance that is set aside by staff for ongoing needs that we have specific earmarks for those types of things like equipment reserve, some of the computer expansion things that we have, that those things are accumulated through ongoing savings through things that weren't spent that we had planned to. And then the last thing would be unassigned fund balance. That's essentially the least restrictive thing that we can use to pay for anything. And so that $78 million isn't just an open checkbook. There are certain restrictions and allocations in place that are earmarking that number down. At the end of 25, that 78 million, there was approximately 31 million of that is unassigned. So we have 40 million or so that is set aside for specific purpose.
Thank you.
So looking at the 27 budget, what we have here is we do have, again, looking at a intentional use of reserves for specific ongoing projects, whether they're IT related or certain equipment replacements like a fire truck or something of that nature. So to show that 1.1, almost $1.2 million, we have reserves set aside directly for those intended purposes.
Commissioner Rish.
For example, the fire truck, we have a specific fund for that $1.3 million
Yes, we
fire
do.
truck, and we get that through insurance, the state, different places other than regular property taxes.
Correct. So the next slide here is showing just a breakdown of our 27 budget general fund revenues. You can see of the 78.7 million, about 39.3 is coming from tax collection and fees. An important thing to note here, while the roll-up does say tax collection, it also does include things like our cable franchise fee that they're required to pay to the city of Bismarck through a contractual obligation. It's not significant in the total amount of 39.3 million, but just know that when it says tax collections, that is not the entirety of property tax. There are other incremental amounts that are put in there by accounting function. The other more important things, like the other financing sources, that is significant to the general fund. That's where you're going to find the roughly $9.8 million of sales tax, property tax buy down that helps to support the general fund through the approved measure that was amended in 2018 at the 2019 amounts. That number from sales tax, barring any other change through a ballot measure, that will remain at roughly $9.8 million going forward forever. The other things are, I think, fairly self-explanatory. The charges for services, that's obviously an in-kind transaction with our citizens, whether it's engineering fees for developers and other departments such as the utility funds for preparing engineering projects, those types of things. Intergovernmental, that's coming from other government agencies, things like state aid, contributions from Burley County for public health, for renting of the building, those types of things. All right, so just more about the general fund revenues. Roughly 49% of our general fund is property tax driven. We're estimating about $38.3 million, and that is in accordance with the new House Bill 1176 that passed in 2025, where we're allowed to take 3% of the dollar increase plus growth. And so part of your guys' packet is the property tax calculation that shows our three different levies of property tax for the general fund, the library, and public transit, and showing that compliance with state law.
Commissioner Rish.
So keep in mind now, so we have the 3% baked into the budget that's allowed by state law, correct?
Yes.
And at some point, we're going to have to probably reduce the mill levy because a lot of people's homes were assessed and are upset that their home is assessed more than they thought it should be, but at some point, will we?
Our property tax is based on, the increase is based on the total dollar now by state statute.
Yeah, the 3% though.
The 3%. Individual homes within that will fluctuate at different values. Some
Sure.
may go down, some may go up 5 or 6 or 7, but we are capped at 3% on the total dollar.
Sure.
And that, the individual tax statement is not dependent on the budget process.
So the answer is the mill levy will go down because our
Yes.
property values on average went up
Sure.
by
Yep.
more than
So we want to
3%.
reassure some of the folks that are watching this.
rate is gonna
because
drop.
Because your house went up in value, it does not mean it's going to go up. If it went up 10%, doesn't mean you're going to get a 10% property tax increase.
Correct.
Because we'll probably reduce the mill levy.
With
at some
House
point.
Bill 1176, Commissioner Risch, the variable in the property tax equation changed from where we asked for a certain dollar at a certain mill amount to create how our total revenue of property tax came. Now we know what the end result is of total property tax. We know what the valuation is of a mill. The new variable is the mill amount. And so once you back into that, that mill levy essentially will decrease year over year as valuations are increasing. It doesn't change the tax rate, it just changes that mill number down.
It changes the percentage, effectively the tax rate on fair value.
Correct.
It does change, it reduces.
Yep. So I already touched on the intergovernmental revenue and the other financing sources, and the charges for services. One thing I forgot to include there is our CENTCOM. We are the financial piece of record for CENTCOM, and we provide that service to Burleigh County and the city of Mandan, and they are paying us proportionately per the JPA, their level of service that they get back. I don't want to discount that because it is a significant input from the other two jurisdictions to help us maintain our 911 service. So looking at operating expenditures, keep in mind that these are base budget numbers. They don't include any of that information in one of the attachments where all the priority requests from the departments come out. This is strictly our base budgets that are occurring year over year for our people and our supplies to perform the duties. The first pie chart, if you take a look at it, $37.6 million of our general fund is spent on public safety. That's more than 53% of our overall spend. By and large, public safety is our number one spend.
Commissioner Dahl.
Thanks, Mayor. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nope, you're okay.
I was just wondering, what is considered public safety? Fire, police, CENTCOM? Is there
Yes.
anything else in that
Nope,
bucket?
that is what we consider public safety. So when we talk about those pieces in that first pie chart, those are by accounting function. So public safety is our police, fire, our CENTCOM. General government is kind of the catch-all of folks that don't have a better thing. Culture and recreation, we look at specifically is our Dakota Media Access support. Highways and streets is our engineering staff. And then health and welfare is our public health staff. Everybody else falls into general government like finance, administration, legal, HR, planning, community development, or building inspections. I hope I didn't leave anybody out. It wasn't intentional. But that's what our general government is, that we're just overall support staff of all of the things within the city. The second pie chart is just an illustration of how we're spending our general fund money. And it's important to note that 52% or $37.1 million is strictly going to our staff, our human capital, the thing that makes City of Bismarck work. In addition to that, there's another $16 million that go to benefits and all of the fringe costs of maintaining our employee base. So by and large, 75% of our spend in the general fund is our human capital, the people that interact with the public that provide those services.
Commissioner Dahl.
Thanks. Sorry, quick question.
Yep.
The grants and subsidies, is that grants that we, as the city of Bismarck, give out, or is that just a placeholder for when we get grants in?
That would be the grants that we give out. So whether they are in support of a committee or like sorry, I got a fly bothering me. Things like arts grants that we have given out in the past, Dakota West Arts Council, the Human Relations Committee, when those monies are expended out, we're considering them like an operating grant for that entity or that committee to be able to function.
Commissioner Risch.
I just thought it was kind of amazing that we spend more money on professional, legal, and contracted services than we do on buildings, equipment, and vehicle services. Kind of jumps out at me. You'd think the buildings and the equipment and vehicles would be a lot bigger part of the pie.
Right, and so professional, legal, and contracted services, that can be anything from an elevator maintenance contract, if we have to seek outside counsel, engineering and architectural consultants that we need for various ongoing things that maybe we don't have all of the expertise in the city, and so we have to seek outside consultants. So that's why that number sort of sticks out, is that is by and large gaining professional consulting services to help us accomplish what we're looking for. Just in words here, looking at the general fund, keep in mind, part of the general fund expense is helping to support roads and streets, forestry, and weeds. Many years ago, forestry and weeds had its own individual mill levy, and that through mill levy consolidation is coming through the general fund as support for their ongoing operations. Roads and streets is a huge cost to the city of Bismarck in the general fund, predominantly because the highway tax distribution that we get from the state has remained unchanged largely for decades. Our costs are continuing to go up because of expansion of city, cost of materials and machinery to do those things. And so the ongoing support for the general fund is continuing to increase for roads and streets until something changes with that highway tax distribution to help provide relief and more support of our road maintenance program. Just general things like striping, crack sealing, traffic paint, maintaining those roads in the wintertime, all of those things that our roads and streets folks are out there doing on a daily basis. Again, just to reiterate, our human capital is roughly 3/4 of our ongoing general fund operating costs. Within this budgeted plan, the Budget Committee is recommending a 4.75% salary increase per the city's compensation plan. And how we come up with that, a number of years ago, when the salary plan was put in place, is we look at the cost of living index for government employees, and we take 75% of that, which gets us to 2.75% market rate adjustment, essentially cost of living increases, per the consumer price index. And then our pay plan adds in another 2% to get to the total number to allow for additional market adjustments and performance-based metrics for employee raises. But that number, is included in the general fund number that you have in front of you with the priority initiatives. So to touch on the committed fund balance that I did previously, we have $20 million specifically set aside by the City Commission previously for related things. Emerald ash borer, prevention and remediation. When that hits our community, we want to make sure that we have some money set aside to prevent the overall detriment to our canopy with ash trees in the city of Bismarck. 15.8 is earmarked for capital projects. That is inclusive of Fire Station 6. Other things that we've looked at, like an initial consultation for the city-county building, and those types of things, ERP replacements.
Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Eric, so the 15.8 million is already spoken for? It's not something other than some of the design that we were talking about today for the city-county?
It is set aside in fund balance to help us build Fire Station 6. And so it's not accounted for in current 2026 revenues.
So
to
if
complete
Fire
that
Station
project.
6, if that comes at a $6 million, we've got 10 million left, right? Or-
Yes, yep, essentially. So,
Yeah, but there's multiple capital projects inside that.
yes, there is.
15.8.
There's, I believe there's 5 or 6 of them that account for that 15.8 million.
There was, I believe, 5 million set aside for Fire Station 6.
Yep, 5.8 million.
Of that 15.8.
Yep. Yes. Yep, and then,
Chief's over here, he's going to try and get it lower.
and then capital equipment is much like the capital projects. That is intended for specific equipment replacement things, whether they're IT related. I believe there's a fire truck. Fire truck 6 is in that number as well. Shifting gears to probably our most important special revenue fund, which is our sales tax fund. Keep in mind that we have 3 existing sales taxes, one of which is divided into 2 separate pieces. The 1% general sales tax, which is the oldest one for the city of Bismarck. Keep in mind these sales tax by ballot measure, they are restricted for specific use within ordinance. The 1% brings in roughly $20 million per year. Of that, we use $9.8 million for property tax relief, $6.8 million to help offset the cost of our special assessment program to help provide relief to the citizens and the overall cost of those special assessments. And then roughly $2.3 million goes to snow removal, snow gates, winter maintenance by ordinance for our roads and street staff that are out maintaining our roads so they're safe for our use. The second one is the half-cent special road tax that was just recently renewed in June. That is specific. Use is about $13.2 million a year. What we're planning for, that'll be like the Tyler Parkway project that's ongoing right now. And these uses come through the capital improvement plan that Gabe puts together and how we're utilizing those dollars. This is just strictly a budgetary number that he would come forward with a project that would get commission approval of how we're spending that money specifically to a project. And then the last half cent.
So, Eric, I think there's a typographical error on that because a half cent is a half cent on pretty much all the sales. And 13.2 million would be the total. And somehow we have 14% for public safety and 1 million for public transportation. I know that's not right because the split would be 40% of the total.
Yep.
For public transportation.
Right.
So,
and so here what we're looking at, Mayor, this is looking at our 2027 budgeted spend. On the second half
Okay.
cent that's broke out, that $14 million would be earmarked towards the initial spend on the new police station, trying to advance fund some of that construction before we have to go out to bond.
So just for the public, or most importantly for the public, not just for the public, and also for us, how much are we collecting and how much would be allocated towards public transportation? Granted, I know what this is, you're
Yep.
talking about the spend, but from a collection standpoint.
From a collection standpoint, a half cent sales tax brings the city just over $10 million. 60% of that is allocated towards public safety capital projects in nature, whether it's equipment or buildings, facilities, and 40% of that is for public transportation. So roughly just over $6 million is for public safety and just over $4 million is for public transportation.
And so I don't know if it's in the slides, but I'm going to bring a highlight to it here. Approximately how much is sitting in the reserves for each of those 2 categories?
I don't recall that off the top of my head, but I want to say we have roughly $4 million in the public safety reserve today because some of that is spent for the acquisition of the police department land. And I want to say there's roughly $4.5 million currently sitting in the public transportation portion of that. We've only had 2 small asks since the implementation from transit. I think it's cumulatively we have supported them with about $1 million.
Thank you. Sorry to distract you.
No, you're good. And so looking at the sales tax, we're budgeting for about $1 million of support to public transit just to make sure that we have enough appropriations to cover what their potential need may be.
And that's over and above their particular portion of the property taxes.
Correct. They are getting a portion of the property tax, I believe.
And
it's
$1 million is about what they
Yep.
figured they were going to be needing to cash flow.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Conley.
Well, and part of when I wrote that measure, it's specific to public transportation, not specific to transit, because as our city grows, transit's just not able to meet all of the dynamics within the city. So as ideas come on board and we can meet some of those other special needs, hopefully those ideas come in front of us to where we can utilize and have some flexibility with it.
But transit happens to be our public transportation system right now.
Right. But they'll always be part of the mix.
I understand. That's the point I was making.
Okay. So looking at the 27 budget, specific or significant initiative and items that we have ongoing that we know about: Fire Station 6, the new police station, a new fire truck that goes with Fire Station 6, as well as typical ongoing replacements, potential City Hall renovation, the equipment replacement program. You'll oftentimes hear this referred to as the fleet plan. That's something that we implemented probably 5 or 6 years ago and have worked very hard with our fleet department to make sure that we are maintaining and replacing all of our fleet vehicles throughout the city on a regular cadence, so that we're not overextending ourselves or having these huge bubble years where we have to replace $4 and $5 million worth of equipment. So that's what the equipment placement program is. So if you hear fleet plan, that's what we're talking about. And then our ongoing annual support of the street maintenance projects, and then identifying new positions for the recommendation for the general fund is a public health social worker, as well as an additional deputy fire marshal to help with that workload that is undergoing in the fire department. Looking at our enterprise funds, or our fee-based funds, the ones that operate more like a business with fee generation, the water treatment plant expansion, we have some funding in place, and we're going to continue working towards the cost of that project. That is a 3 or 4 or 5 year ongoing project into the future. There are changes and updates and rehabilitations going on at the wastewater treatment plant. The airport terminal expansion project, I believe 27 is the final year for the Hay Creek lift station and interceptor project for sanitary sewer purposes. The event center HVAC project that we'll be undertaking, 27 will be a continuation of where we get going on 26. The South Bismarck flood control project, and then the new positions for the enterprise funds that we've looked at is an additional airport police officer position that's paid for by the airport, a master electrician position within our building maintenance staff, and then industrial pretreatment tech that I believe works with the wastewater treatment plant in our businesses in the community. Looking at the utility funds, the thing that's probably most pressing is what are the rate changes that are going to affect those utilities, and looking at our citizens' utility rate, utility bill costs. When we put this together, we looked at a typical single-family residence that has a 3/4 inch water meter as their base rate. The items that you're going to see is about a 38-cent monthly increase on our streetlights and traffic signal line item. It's about 3%. The solid waste utility, so our garbage collections, our landfill, that is going to go up $1.15 recommended. It's about 6.12%. And then the recycling aspect of that is going up 40 cents, which is 4.95%. That is a direct pass-through per our contract with Waste Management in providing that recycling service for us. One thing to note with the waste collection, it is the highest increase on there. If we would not have made changes to the not picking up extras and just continually doing garbage service as we had for all of the years prior, this number would have been much higher of a rate increase change for the solid waste utility. Looking at the water utility, we're estimating a 64-cent base rate increase and a 6-cent per unit increase. And so that's based on your levels of consumption within your household through the various tiers, both of which are about 3.3 to 3.5% of an increase. And then on the sanitary sewer side, 29 cents to the monthly base rate, and then 8 cents on the per unit increase, both of which are 2.5. So cumulatively, we're estimating at about a $3 monthly increase, all in for all of the services that our utility bill provides to our citizens. It's about $3. So just to kind of wrap it up, the overall budget committee recommendations, of the FTEs, there were 14 positions requested citywide, 8 of which were approved. Note to that, only 11 of them were FTEs. The airport did request 3 part-time seasonal operators to help alleviate and would only be utilized if necessary in the winter months to provide relief to the existing staff if they have to do emergency snow removal operations. They just don't simply have enough staff today to run 24/7 for extended periods of time. Believe it or not, people need time off, and sleep is essential to providing safety out there. The ongoing operating, so these are budgetary increases to the base budget. These are the ones that are going to help us stave off some of those operating cost increases, the inflationary that we're seeing. Requested was about 1.7, almost 1.8 million, and budget committee is recommending 1.4 for approval. One-time costs, these are, when we talk one-time, these are truly a project-based thing. It's one time, it's not going to have ongoing implications. It's to pay for an implementation, those types of things. That ask was 6.2 million, and the budget committee's recommendation is just under 3.4 million.
Commissioner Risch.
Mayor, Commissioners, Eric, FTEs requested 14 positions, recommended 8 positions. I noticed you listed a social worker and a fire marshal. What are some of the other 6?
So the social worker and the fire marshal, those are direct general fund related.
Okay.
The other ones, those are on the attachment that I sent out Friday evening.
Okay.
And they are inclusive of the police, the airport police officer,
Okay.
the master electrician, and the industrial pretreatment tech.
So those are
Those are
enterprise.
Those are the enterprise
Okay.
funds for those pieces. And the capital projects, this is the last slide. Just highlighting some of the things, the significant cost inputs that the budget committee has considered through this process. The police station, preliminarily, until we get a GMP in place, we're estimating 97.6 million. This is a total budgetary ask. Likely, we're going to try to fund 14 million of that, and the rest of it will go through a sales tax revenue bond for us to complete that police station. Fire Station 6, as mentioned before in the committed fund balance, we have 5.8 million set aside. Preliminary estimates say that we're going to be at about 6.4 million for total construction costs. So we have 700,000 budgeted in general fund spend for this year to help accomplish the final part of that funding for Fire Station 6. The street repairs, maintenance, and construction, it's $40.2 million, and that's a mix of combination of sales taxes, special assessments, and other grant-related revenues that we may have from DOT, Federal Highway, to accomplish those costs. Streetlights and traffic signals, they have a spending plan, identified intersections, we're replacing cabinets, traffic signals, we're estimating about 1.59 million from that utility worth of spend. Phase 1 of the airport terminal is estimated at 66.5. We're putting that in as a budgetary number. Keep in mind that we may not spend it all. It will have a timing component of how that goes, and the additional money will be rolled into future years if we don't actually get to that point. And then the event center HVAC, this was supposed to be, year 2 of that part of it, so it's estimated at 6.35. It may, depending on the timing of the project, that number may fluctuate or need to be adjusted upwards depending on how we get there. And then lastly, the utility operations. We're estimating that we're going to have $14 million into the water treatment plant of actual construction this upcoming year. $4.3 million to finish up the Hay Creek interceptor. About $12.7 million in the wastewater treatment plant rehabilitations and expansion. And then South Bismarck flood, a potential $65 million spend in '27, depending on how that project turns out for us with our revenue partners, the state and the federal government, if we can get that going. So those are really the highlights of the '27 preliminary budget, just to kind of supplement all of the information that was sent to you guys Friday evening. Have any questions for me?
Commissioners, do you have questions of Eric?
Thank you.
So my request is that being on the budget committee and the commissioner holding that in my portfolio is to us as commissioners is to look at the departments that you have in your portfolios to see if there's any adjustments that we should be making to the budget. We do need to approve the preliminary budget. I've already had conversations during budget committee, in particular around a couple of topics that I probably will be working with my departments on, and one of those could ultimately affect all departments, and that's going to be compensation adjustment, because I think we need to take a look at that. This year it's pretty strong, and we may have to look at that. But I asked that each of us visit with our departments to see if there's anything to do that allows us to be more streamlined and efficient and deliver our services for a lower dollar cost. And I know that some of you have probably already had those conversations, but with two new commissioners, you're really, we're throwing you into the fire. And so if anybody has any direction right now for Eric, great. We can do that, and then we can I would entertain a motion to approve the preliminary budget, knowing it is going to change.
And really what approving the preliminary budget tonight allows us to take direction from the commission in preparation of the final budget. It keeps us on schedule to be able to hit the September 8th meeting for approval of the final budget. So that way we can stay on schedule with certifying to Burley County and doing all of the things we need to do in accordance with North Dakota Century Code. If we don't get an approval of the preliminary tonight, that means we'll have to come back and have another meeting to get approval of the preliminary budget, which will set everything back and likely will require special commission meetings in September in order for us to make sure that we get final approval so we can get all the way through all the Century Code requirements and dealing with levying property tax to Burley County. Our intent, knowing that Commissioner Dahl and Commissioner Hall, you guys were not commissioners at the time to go through the budget committee and meet with your departments, we would like to be able to, offer, extend an invitation to meet with your departments, to meet with Ryan and I, to answer questions that you guys may have about all of this information that you're likely seeing for the very first time. We understand that there's a lot of information and that there's a learning curve to understand the method to our madness and to achieve what we're trying to achieve for the city of Bismarck. And so Ryan and I would like to offer that to you guys, to be able to meet with you to help answer any questions that you have about the process and what's all included in this information.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Eric, I just have a few things that I want to toss out, and not making formal motions or anything, but I'm constantly working with my portfolios to try and find efficiencies. We need to find efficiencies. I want to pay our employees well. They need good fringe benefits. I believe in that strongly. But things change, and we can find some efficiencies. Our police department, and my friend, the chief in the back, he was able to, one of the administrative positions, she left. The other administrative position took care of all those responsibilities. That's an efficiency. Technology changes. We don't need quite as many support staff in some of these places that we once had. But the only issue I have with that is that full-time position is still on the books for the police department. And if he needs it, he needs it. But it's vacant, and I'd like to see that position taken away. And the chief, who I love the chief, if you need a position in the future, you can count on me to help you get a new one. But that FTE should be taken off the books. The other thing I've been pushing, we're trying some electric vehicles. So my wife said to me, well, what do you know about electric vehicles? You should go get one. So I went and got one, and they're remarkable. I've got essentially a 3/4-ton pickup, made in America, purchased in Bismarck, and I'll probably save close to $5,000 a year in operating costs on that one vehicle. I'll give you an example. 3 weeks ago, I was in Medora, and I had to get on a conference call with the Burley County zoning. For 3.5 hours, that vehicle ran. I did not use $1 worth of electricity, and it was air conditioned, and I had a cooled seat. Now, the other night, I was at the baseball game, the Larks game, and the police officer was there, a very nice young man. And he's got to keep his vehicle running because he got all that electronics. It's 100 degrees outside and whatnot. So that vehicle was burning gasoline for 4 hours. I don't know what it cost, but it certainly wasn't $1. So I would just encourage some experimentation with some electric vehicles, because they're vastly more efficient. They're just vastly more efficient. Some of the police departments around the country claim they save $7,000 to $10,000 per vehicle per year. But we've got to get from here to there, and I'd like to try some, and I see there's none in the budget, even though I've been pushing it. Another thing, I see the Great Plains Food Bank asked for $50,000, and that's not included in the budget. And I'm not a fan of giving city tax dollars away to anybody, okay? But included in the budget, we have $250,000 for the Vision Fund, $200,000 for the Chamber, $50,000 for the down counters. So that's $500,000. But if I got to pick and choose who we give city tax money away to, and I'd rather not give any of it away, I'd rather give it to some poor kids that need food rather than the Vision Fund, where I see time and again some of the most affluent people in the city are getting buy-downs on their loans to buy a new building. Employee raises. What I suggest on employee raises, whatever the number might be, it's 4.75, you're going to look at that and adjust it. But year after year, we give this percentage increases in employee wages. And I brought this up last year on the budget. And what happens then is the highest paid employees, because it's a percentage base, their wages go like this, and the lowest paid go like this, but the spread between the highest paid employees and the lowest paid employees keeps widening and widening. We have some department heads that are not just paid twice as much, not 3 times as much, but 4 times as much as the lowest paid employees in their department. So my recommendation is that we have a flat increase pay for everybody, and I'm not suggesting we do this every year, but this one year we do a flat increase, whatever that 4.75, or if you have some other number, come up with that number and divide it up with all our city employees, give everybody the same amount. Somebody said that, well, that's socialism, John. I said, well, no, that's not socialism if we paid every employee the same amount, and we don't. We have 670 employees in the city. No 2 of them are paid the same. That's amazing to me. That's completely amazing to me. So my recommendation is that we take, instead of a percentage base, everybody gets the same amount, as long as they're a full-time employee, been employed since October, whatever the guardrails are. And the last thing I just want to comment on is I keep asking the department heads, let's find some efficiencies. Well, now anybody that's watching this that's a city employee, I'm calling on city employees. Come up with some ways in which we can find some efficiencies that don't affect your wages, don't affect your fringe benefits, but ways in which we can be more efficient in your line of work. And get them to me. Get them to the mayor, get them to the portfolio holder, whatever, so we can find some efficiencies as we proceed forward. So that's my kick. Those are my recommendations. And
Commissioner Hall.
I guess, Mayor and Commissioners, building on Commissioner Rich's idea about efficiencies, I know one thing on the campaign trail I pitched was put a bounty on efficiencies. I used the example of if there's a $2,000 printer and they're spending $100, it breaks down every month and they have to spend $100 to fix it, pay a repair person to come in because they can't, get the $2,000 to fix it. Let's give them give that department a $2,000 loan, 0 interest loan. Give the employee that reported a reward, but if that printer lasts 5 years, it's like, I would use the example of the library. If they, once they pay it off, if they got $100 a month, they I'm sure all the departments can, but, budget-wise, I feel the library could, it's like, they could do amazing things with an extra $100 a month over that, the 2.5 years that they would have. So it would reward the department, it would reward the employee, but in the end, it would also just, improve services and save money. If they want to take that printer out back, like Office Space, that'd be another reward too. But that's one idea I would pitch to, incentivize people to find these efficiencies where it's not trying to reduce headcount unless that works, but it's finding those, passive aggressive IT problems or whatever it is.
Mr. Mayor, I just to follow up on that, I think I've discussed this with our human resources. I don't think we're allowed to, let's say we put out a bounty, whatever you can find in efficiencies, you get 10% of your savings for the first year. Can we even do that, Leanne? Reward employees in such a way? I think when we discussed this at one other point, it wasn't, I think it's a great idea. I mean, then they'd go find some efficiencies.
I knew that legal might be an issue, so.
Yeah, Mayor and Commissioners, I think it would depend how it's set up. I mean, if it's we can't give employees anything beyond $25, but I know at one time the state had some kind of a program where employees could get X dollars of savings for lights or computers being off or whatever the case is. I think it would depend how you set it up, if it would be considered a bonus or something like that. You could do that.
I'm going to try to rein this, we're getting a little off topic here. Not a little, we're a lot off topic.
I think it's right on.
We're talking about the preliminary budget, and I have no problems as we move forward into the final budget and the hearing, is if you have departments you wish to bring ideas to their department, and that floats back through, so we get it into the final budget, and if there's cost savings, believe me, I'm all in favor of that. I'd love to see our general fund spend on operating expenses drop if we can. I think there are some areas in that. How we compensate employees, my first number is what's the dollar amount that we're allocating to pay adjustments. How we get to there and how they're allocated, that can be a secondary proposal. But let's keep ourselves focused on what we're trying to accomplish here. It's great to talk about some efficiencies, and we need to do that. But, we're talking, we have a $80 million budget, general fund budget. And if I find $2,000, I don't know how significant that is. I got to be honest. It can help, but I need a lot of $2,000 adjustments. So, go ahead, Commissioner Dahl.
I just had a question or clarification. If we approve the preliminary budget tonight, and then we meet with our departments, we can't add to the budget, correct? It can only be subtracted.
So, what we can't do, well, there's not a can't.
There's no longer, with the passage of House Bill 1176, we can adjust the budget however we see fit. We are, in terms of levying tax, we are already asking for the max that's allowable for the city of Bismarck. And so if we were to increase general fund spending, we would then have to find other revenue sources to help support that or identify the use of reserves to accomplish those things.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not advocating for adding anything particular into the budget.
Correct.
I just wanted to come back to the preliminary budget and know what the bounds of that were.
Yep, we are hopeful with what is presented tonight that we're aware of everything that we can be aware of, and it's been presented, and that number would not increase, but there's not a guarantee that in a month from now, something may rise to the attention where we need to include it in the final budget.
All right, well, with that in mind, I move to approve the preliminary budget as presented.
Second.
Do we have further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Commissioner Dahl?
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Commissioner Hall?
Yes.
Commissioner Risch?
Yes.
Mayor Schmitz?
Yes. Thank you, Eric and Ryan. And Eric, again, I want to thank you because I know you had a major lift. You and your team were flying short-handed during the budget process, and I commend you for all the work, and you got us to this point. I really appreciate that. Commissioner Connolly.
I concur on that. I guess I jumped the gun. I want to share when we get to other business, too.
Okay. So that brings us to other business. I will first ask the commissioners if they have other business. I have one item to call forward, but go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I got a couple of things. I've now got building inspections, and Brady is going through the code and revising our building code. He's reached out to a bunch of folks, and he's not getting much of a response. So anybody that's a builder or somebody who's interested in our building code, now is the time to interact with our Brady over at Building Inspections or their team. Put your input in on this new revision to the building code. So when I was campaigning for office, I got these complaints about, oh, they made me do this, they made me do that. Well, if there's something that's erroneous that really doesn't enhance safety, this is the time to adjust it. Let's do it. I'm all in on that. Then I've got some good news, and I happen to like good news. When we changed the way we collected garbage, without picking up the extras and whatnot, we made the commitment that we'll look at some ways in which to mitigate some of the effects. And last fall, we gathered up leaves on a couple of different garbage days, provided they were in paper bags and things like that, and that was helpful. But I've been getting two different people contact me about the issue of branches. They used to be able to tie up their branches and leave it next to the can, and the people would pick up the extras. Well, we don't do that anymore. You actually have to go to the landfill. You got to go through the scale, you got to go dump it off, come back through the scale again, and it's a pretty big inconvenience, especially when it's muddy out there. I've been out there when it's muddy, and I go in there with a relatively clean truck, and it's a mess when I leave the doggone landfill. But I've been working with Steve Solway and Toby Sheldon, and as of today, we've got a roll-off in North Bismarck and a roll-off in South Bismarck that you can put tree branches. Now, we don't want you taking big logs and trees, things like that, but you got some tree branches. There's one at the Ash Coulee, a water tower site on the north end, and down by Cottonwood parking lot down on Santa Fe and 12th on the south end. And I'm just urging our citizens to just put branches in there. We've had situations, somebody's waving at me. 4 inches or less. Okay, the branches have to be our former city forester, who knows branches, 4 inches or less that go into those roll-offs. But be respectful. In the past, we've had people throw tires in them when we used to do this. I talked to the mayor of Mandan the other day and just mentioned they've got a thing in Mandan where they allow branches. He said, yeah, a guy threw an engine block in it. Well, that ruins it for everybody if it gets too abusive. So put only branches in there, and when you put the leaves and the grass and the other roll-offs, make sure you dump them out of the plastic bags and do your civic duty as a citizen to treat this new special thing. We're getting you places to haul your branches. So Steve's in the back there. Thanks, Steve, and pass on my thanks to Toby as well.
Commissioner Connolly.
I just want to thank our police department, CENTCOM, medical support staff, and both in the community and whatnot. In the last 48 hours, we had a hard circumstance that's going to change a couple of families, and it's something that working at CENTCOM for a little bit, it stays with people. So just want to say thanks a lot for supporting our community.
Does anybody else have other business? If not, I'm going to ask Jason to come forward because we need to recognize one of our wonderful team members.
Mayor and Commissioners, pleased to share this information with you. We held this at the last meeting because she wasn't here to help celebrate, but we have our Public Health Director, Renee Mock, has been recently appointed to the National Association of County and City Health Officials. She often refers to this as NACHO. Renee will be representing Region 8, which is composed of Colorado, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah, and Wyoming. She is the first representative from North Dakota on this national board, and it is a 4-year appointment. She comes in as the current vice president, and then we'll move through the ranks over the next few years. I just wanted to bring this out. This is a pretty important distinction for Renee, both professionally, but then for us as an organization, because we have a voice on a national board. And she is representing the rural communities and us as an organization and Bismarck as a community, and I think that's a pretty special thing, and I think it's worth giving her a little time at the podium so she can talk about this and maybe share some of her experiences while she was at the conference 2 weeks ago in Louisville, Kentucky. She's not prepared for this, but I think she can handle it just fine.
little
Congratulations,
unexpected.
by the way, on the opportunity to serve our country and our state.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know what to say. Jason explained it very well. I just want to say, okay, so it's NACHO. It's the National Association of City and County Health Officials, and it is the professional association for local health officials like me that work for city and county health departments across the nation. There are 3,300 local health departments across the nation, just like ours, and there's never been on the executive committee representation from Region 8 nor from the state of North Dakota. And so it is an honor for me to represent the city of Bismarck and also have the opportunity to bring a voice of rural and more secluded areas to the executive committee, making decisions about policy and public health, having conversations with CDC, federal level individuals, so we can put our input and voice at the table along the other large metro areas, because we are innovative here. We have good ideas. We're doing great things, and for us to be able to share that information at a national table is an honor for me. And it was a competitive election, and so I am the only rural person that is on the executive committee. So super excited. Thank you.
Thank you. There being no other new business, or other business, I should say, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.